Hey, good morning. It is Wednesday. It's August 27th. Welcome to Lake Wissota. Nice to have you here up at the lake for a Wednesday morning. Getting that much closer to Labor Day weekend. We will be talking later today in the program with Randi Weingarten, the national president of the American Federation of Teachers. She is on her way to Wisconsin right now for an event later today to talk about the big bloated Trump budget and all of the massive cuts that it's going to make to education, but not just education. There will be leaders there from healthcare and local services and more, putting forward a united front in opposition to what's happening in Washington, D.C. What's happening in Washington, D.C. is just a complete circus right now. The bootlicking fest that went on yesterday at Donald Trump's feet for over 3 hours of what was called a cabinet meeting was absolutely nauseous. We'll talk a bit about that. On the lighter side, much later, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got engaged. America came to a pause for a moment to celebrate, and then 5 seconds later went back to the dystopian nightmare that we're living. But we'll be happy for the kids in a bit. In our climate check, we'll talk to Melissa Baldauff about a new type of lawsuit being filed now in Wisconsin that we've seen in other states on behalf of children suing because the planet that we're handing them is currently no bueno. And maybe we need to, stop choking the atmosphere. That and Earl Ingram and so much more still ahead here on this Wednesday morning. The show will get started at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. And right here, we will see you soon.
Campus Madison's downtown has 2 new defibrillators available in case of cardiac emergency. They're called Save Stations, and the pair are available 24/7. They're now installed near the Historical Society on Library Mall and near the basketball courts at James Madison Park. They were unveiled yesterday and put there by a student-led group that works to prevent sudden cardiac arrest. The group formed a decade ago after the sudden death of a UW Oshkosh student who died after crossing the finish line of a half marathon at Summerfest. And in Milwaukee, a federal judge has denied a motion to dismiss charges against Judge Hannah Dugan. The ruling could be appealed, and that would put off a trial until next year. Another hearing in the case is scheduled for next week. For Savannah Tomei-Olson, I'm Shali Pittman, 92.7 WMDX News.
The return of The Miz. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball tonight. The Brewers host the Diamondbacks for Game 3 of their 4-game series. The Crew with another dramatic win, 9-8 last night over Arizona. Jacob Mizorowski on the mound from Milwaukee. After a few shaky starts, he was back in form. 5 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, allowing 3 runs. The Miz asked if he had a little more confidence in his command.
I mean, it's the same. I don't think I changed the intent on any game, these last 2 or 3, but it feels good to feel like I'm back.
Manager Pat Murphy.
Thought Miz threw the ball well. This is a really good offensive team, as you guys have witnessed. You get ahead of them, it doesn't matter. But I thought we showed tremendous poise, resiliency.
NFL. The Packers reduced their roster to 53 players. Today, they're adding 16 players to their practice squad. The team also signed long snapper Matt Orzik to a 3-year contract extension worth $4.8 million. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
As Wisconsin has a fish fry on a Friday night, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be mostly sunny today with a high right around 75 this afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible tonight with a low dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, a shower early, then mostly sunny with a high in the low to mid 70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 49.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Public schools and private schools, when the people who are sitting to the left and to the right of me in classes, and when the professors and the TAs and the staff don't all look the same, education is promoted. You get a better sense of what the world is all about. We know that also because our Supreme Court has said so. Brown versus Board of Education. Brown versus Board of Education.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Wednesday morning, August 27th, 2025. Another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota. From wherever you're spending your mornings, listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or watching us on social media, catching us by app, however you got here. Nice to have you along. I've got a question for you. Can the work week be done already? There is just something about when a holiday weekend is coming up, like Labor Day weekend or, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Parker Olson, we get to Wednesday and go, can we just go? Can we just be done now? I'm ready.
It's really funny you say that, because this morning I was putting on my shoes and I thought to myself, oh, on Friday I can sleep in because we're doing
the best of. Yes.
Yeah.
I will be again with the daughters in town. Will be, that'll be the one day I take, just for us to do some fun stuff together. And so, yeah, I mean, our live work week only has one more day after today, but I could go now.
Yes.
Yesterday was as much as I complained about Sunday being gross. Yesterday was the polar opposite, without the polar vortex or the Arctic Express or whatever the heck it was I was trying to say the other day. It was gorgeous. Yeah. I actually stopped work for a time yesterday afternoon and went out to my hammock and just hung out there. Well, in part because, the grandsons are out there and my daughter, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time with them. I can't just be working here the whole time, but still, I mean, it was just perfect out there. The day made even brighter by the Brewers winning last night. And Roger notes on Facebook, the Cubs lost to the Giants out west 5-2 overnight. So the Brewers' magic number is now 24. I like that. That's
really low.
Yep. So it was a great day yesterday. We'll get Brittany Merlot's forecast about what else to expect for today and heading into the Labor Day weekend in just a bit. Coming up, it would be enough for leaders from education, healthcare, labor, local services, for all those groups to call attention to the damage being done by the Trump administration on their own. But imagine if you get them all together singing from the same hymnal. Well, that's going to happen today in Eau Claire. And it will include the national president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten, talking about the important work to educate the public about the ways that we will all be impacted by Trump's actions for many years to come. Randi Weingarten is on a plane now heading to Eau Claire, and I talked to her about an hour ago before she hopped on her flight, and we will play that interview during the show today. Also, Wisconsin is the scene of a new lawsuit that is taking a familiar new approach to the impacts of a changing climate, and that would be the harm to children. We'll talk to Melissa Baldauff about these youth-centric lawsuits, what I guess you could call the literal cry of the next generation that wants all the rest of us to stop harming their future environment and health and maybe hand them a planet they can live in. We will, of course, talk about the closest thing the United States will get to a royal wedding. That would be Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce announcing plans to get married, and whether the veteran football player and the billionaire pop star can make time for wedding planning between his new NFL season and her new album release. Brittany's state forecast for today says it's going to be breezy today with a mix of clouds and sun. Our high today in the low to mid 70s. A west-southwest wind at 10, sometimes 20 miles an hour. She says showers are likely tonight throughout parts of Wisconsin, maybe a thunderstorm even. Lows tonight in the mid to upper 50s, a southwest wind at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Hey, along the way, if you would like to, like Roger just did in Stevens Point, you can give us your questions and your comments in several different ways. You can use the Civic Media app. You can then bring up one of the stations where you're hearing the program, and you can either use the text button or the voice note button and leave us a little audio note with your question or comment. And of course, we're on Facebook and YouTube. That would be the Up North News Facebook and YouTube pages, and the Civic Media Facebook and YouTube pages. And you can follow what my team is doing over at upnorthnewswi.com as well. As for the Brewers and mentioning that they won last night, yes, for the second straight game, the Milwaukee Brewers jumped off to a 6-0 lead and still managed to make it a nail biter both times. But thankfully, they won both times. And last night, the hero was Isaac Collins hitting a sac fly with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth to bring home the winning run 9-8. William Contreras hit a 2-run homer. Bryce Terang hit a 2-run homer. A lot of excitement, and again, had to have a little drama in there as well. Game 3 of the series is also at 6:05 this evening on several Civic Media stations around the state. And then tomorrow's game, the fourth and final game of the series, of course, on a getaway day, it is a 12:35 start time for the pregame here across the Civic Media radio network. But if we're really going to talk sports, Parker Olson, we have to bypass the Brewers and the Packers. We have to go right to the Kansas City Chiefs and whether their season has, been detrimentally impacted by having a guy on their team who is a veteran player, but now is clearly distracted because he's got a wedding to plan. And if there's one thing we know about guys, is that we're always very distracted when it comes time to planning a wedding. I mean, we sweat all the details, and I'm not quite sure how Travis Kelce's going to pull this one off, but I wish him the best planning that wedding.
Yeah, I do too. I want to read you a text that I got from a friend of mine, the commissioner of my fantasy football league.
Oh, the commissioner. Well, by all means, continue.
Yes. Important words.
Yes.
Travis Kelce just went down on my draft board now that he has a wedding to plan. So people are talking, and it's a big deal. This is going to be Travis Kelce's worst season ever.
This is or his best, because again, Taylor magic. It could be, or he could really screw up and get injured. Don't get hurt, buddy. Okay.
Oh, don't say that. Why would you say that?
Well, break a leg. No, the guy is funny. Okay. First off, he's got that podcast along with his brother, Jason.
Yeah.
And I've also seen clips where he's mic'd up like at training camp.
Sure.
And I mean, you talk about loose. This guy, how much more loose could a guy be? You're marrying one of the world's most famous celebrities who happens to be a billionaire. Life is good,
And she seems cool. She's not one of those billionaires that I'm like, ugh. She's actually like, okay.
I have to say that, yes, I mean, obviously opinions on people can change, especially as they change as well. And I did listen to the full 2 hours, the podcast that the Kelce brothers do with Taylor Swift as their special guest, which was about 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Like that, yeah.
And it was downright charming. It really was. I mean, look, anybody can fake it for a few minutes of an interview.
Yeah.
We've all lived through that. But I mean, this was a 2-hour conversation that, had all kinds of drama and history and feelings and everything else. And it wasn't like homework to listen to it. It was like a really good conversation, and you really liked the guys, and she came off as, extremely likable. You understand her drive as a musician, but also her drive as an entrepreneur as well. And, she had the right perspective when she said that she and Travis Kelce, actually, they have pretty much the same job description. And that is to entertain football stadiums filled with people.
That's true. Yeah.
When you kind of look at it that way, like, they're both doing their job. They both got their heads on straight. And so, I wish them all the best. There's, life has no guarantees, especially when you add the factor of celebrity and, just the show business world, the cutthroat business of music and of sports. They're both a couple of attractive people making their way in the world, in their 30s. So, it's not going to be all smooth sailing all the time. And yet I feel like, as well as any other couple, they are equipped to, weather the things that rock a lot of celebrity marriages.
This is true. And they have managed to make time for each other, which I don't know how that's possible.
Well, in that case, the way they make time for each other sometimes involves global jets. And remember, like flying from Japan to the Super Bowl or something. And what did he fly to Australia or something like that? So, they do have the means to do that. But I mean, that's how it works in that world. No different than there are times that I showed up, someplace where Sherry wasn't expecting me, to provide support or whatever the case. So, everybody has their own little ways of bringing the romance. You don't need $1 million or $1 billion to do it, but they do. So
but they have them.
Yep. I just have to say, though, I did enjoy when the news came out somewhere around noonish our time yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I said to somebody, did you hear that? I said, the internet just exploded. It just absolutely, it came down. And get this, the old guy here at Courier Newsroom, the old guy here was the first one to put it on Slack for our company. We've got a little water cooler channel, where people just put their random funny stuff or whatever.
Sure.
And there are a lot of Swifties. And I think all the Swifties were busy texting each other. Hey, guess what? And meanwhile, I was like, nobody else has put this up yet. Really? Okay, I'll put it up. And then you get the, oh my gosh, wow. It's like,
I saw a video yesterday of a TV reporter was about to do a stand-up, and she was
yes
in the Iowa football stadium.
Yep.
And she gets a notification. She looks at her phone. She goes, oh my God. And she's jumping around in the stands of the Iowa football stadium for like 2 minutes.
See, now you don't want to be that person. I don't want to do that. I'm happy for them. I'm not going to jump around and scream and look, even somebody that you would jump around and scream with at one of their concerts while they're entertaining you, that's fair game. But I mean, they got engaged. Let's be happy for them.
I thought similar things.
In this
I'm great, but like, calm down.
In this big, crazy, often stupid world, we need these little moments. And in this case, because neither one of those two have given us reasons to go, oh God, what a jerk. We can legitimately be happy for them for at least this little moment.
And you know what? That's their point. They are entertainers.
Yeah. And I do what I said earlier. I'm not sure about how they do this wedding thing, because she's got the album coming out October 3rd. I know that because I listened to the 2-hour show. She got that. So of course there will be the obligatory tour that goes along to promote the album. He's got the NFL season. I'm guessing it's going to be his final season here. So, I mean, there's plenty of celebrities, they get engaged, and I mean, they stay engaged for years. Or do they just run off? Do they just run off and do something quickly, really tight, just very personal on Tahiti, but something very quick?
Really. My thinking is, how much of the wedding are they planning themselves?
There will be people. Yes.
Yeah.
And good for them. Again, good luck, kids. From the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're listening to the Civic Media Radio Network.
Show is brought to you by Madison Hearing Aid Center, 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison, helping people change their lives by improving their hearing. They offer fast and flexible appointments with individualized care. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com and take a free hearing test online. They help John Peterson, they help me, and they can help you too. Call them at 608-249-4077. Don't let hearing loss frustrate you anymore. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
The Cap Times Idea Fest is back with important local and national topics September 8th through the 13th in Madison. This year's guest speakers include Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, former Georgia lawmaker and voting rights activist Stacey Abrams, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. Idea Fest will also feature some of the nation's leading journalists, from Maureen Dowd of the New York Times to Evan Osnos of the New Yorker, along with former Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson and Jennifer Rubin. Tickets at captimesmediafest.com.
Green and Gold football is back at the Lazy Oaf Lounge. Catch the games on 14 large screen TVs. Join meat and jersey raffles at halftime during regular season games and enjoy half-price wings and beer bucket specials. And the Lazy Oaf is a great place for lunch with daily specials, soups made from scratch, and fast, friendly service. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road. Find specials, menus, and more at lazyoaflounge.com.
An unsuspecting driver at a Milwaukee barbershop.
I got an apprentice here shadowing me. I'll put this hot towel on, man. About a good 3 minutes, all right?
The apprentice is Donald Driver.
So when you come here, you drive?
Yes.
Your car got seatbelts?
Yeah.
You wear them?
No.
Okay, but why not?
I don't want to.
But do you know you can get a ticket for that? I'm gonna give you a ticket.
To hear the words The Apprentice and the word Donald in the same sentence, and for there not to be the word Trump in there, really threw me off.
I never thought of it that way. You can stay up to date on what we cover at Up North News by getting our daily newsletter. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe up in the banner at the top of the homepage. You also get our Sunday morning newsletter that focuses on political news, especially around Wisconsin. In today's edition of the newsletter, it's actually what inspired today's Climate Check segment with Melissa Baldauff later this morning, and that would be the lawsuit filed by 15 young Wisconsinites ages 8 to 17. The case being brought by two nonprofit law firms and arguing that Wisconsin laws that tend to favor fossil fuels violate the constitutional rights of young people to life, liberty, and safety. These are lawsuits that are happening in other states as well and in other countries. And in some cases, courts are ruling that, yes, if this is a constitutional promise that we've made to ourselves and to our children to keep the environment clean, then our state laws had better reflect that priority. So again, you can learn more about that in today's newsletter and a little bit later on during our Climate Check segment. Tomorrow on the program, it'll be Thursday, so we'll have Joe Zepecki along, as well as Sean O'Malley talking about your money and the markets. Chad Holmes and Todd Alba will talk about what they're covering for Civic Media. Sharita Booker will have a rundown of some of the big events going on this Labor Day weekend. And then we'll also have a conversation with Kate Felton from Eau Claire, formerly with the city council. She's a small business owner, and she has a guest column in Dan Schaefer's recombobulation area entitled Medicaid and SNAP Helped My Family. Derek Van Orden's vote to cut these programs will be harmful. So again, that and more coming up tomorrow on the program here, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. One of the state stories making news this morning deals with the case of Judge Hannah Dugan. She's the judge in Milwaukee who's facing federal charges for the way she handled an undocumented immigrant in her courtroom who was being pursued by federal agents, again, in a local courthouse. And the way that she tried to avoid a kerfuffle in front of her courtroom. The guy was later apprehended outside the courthouse. but it led the Trump administration to try to make an example of her and file charges of obstructing immigration officers. Well, the case will proceed to trial, at least for the moment, because yesterday a U.S. federal judge denied a motion from Judge Hannah Dugan's attorney to dismiss the case. And in a way, that's kind of good news in terms of, strike one for sanity. Here's what I mean. Donald Trump currently has the U.S. Supreme Court in his back pocket. He appointed 3 of the justices. You can argue that all 6 of those conservative justices are right-wing ideologues. Occasionally, they have their moments where they appear to be more balanced than political. But by and large, he's got 3-4 votes that he can count on every single time. And it was this U.S. Supreme Court that said, in so many words, well, you can't really prosecute Donald Trump for things that he did while he was president, because if he believed them to be official acts of his job as president, well, then you can't prosecute him for that, which is fundamentally ridiculous. And unfortunately, there's not a Supreme Court of the Supreme Court where justices could say to those justices, are you nuts? Do you really think a president could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and say, well, I thought that was part of my official acts? Or in this case, have a Navy SEAL team raid the home of your political opponent, or just the FBI doing what they did to John Bolton the other day. Apparently, there are no guardrails. There are virtually no limits. Well, Judge Hannah Dugan rightly said to this federal district judge, hey, look, what I did, those are part of my official duties. And based on, what the U.S. Supreme Court said about Donald Trump, you can't prosecute for that. Now, the judge, Lynn Edelman, he was a former Democratic state legislator, so a lot of folks think he's going to be some kind of a liberal judge. He hasn't been in several cases that have come before him. He's actually looked at the rule of law and, ruled based on that rather than partisan whims. And he looked at Hannah Dugan's attorney making this claim based on the Trump defense and struck a blow for sanity, essentially, and said, no, that's not going to fly here. He didn't say this. I'm saying it. He said in so many words, look, the U.S. Supreme Court is a bunch of chuckleheads, and I'm not going along with it. What happened here is not necessarily part of your official duties. Now, I hasten to add that the judge, Lynn Edelman, did not rule on the merits of the case, on what Hannah Dugan did, only on this motion to dismiss the charges against her based on this flimsy blank check that the U.S. Supreme Court has given Donald Trump. So where do we go from here? Well, there is a chance that Judge Dugan's attorneys could appeal this rejection of the motion to dismiss the charges, okay? And that could tie things up for months. That's exactly the kind of thing that Donald Trump and others did throughout the 4 years of the Biden administration. Was they appealed, and then they appealed this, and then they'd make another motion, and that would be rejected, but they'd appeal, and then they'd appeal again. And then they'd make another motion. And that's why Donald Trump, a convicted felon, is currently not in some country club incarceration facility right now, but is instead making the Oval Office look like a joke with all of the gold leaf and trimming. And we'll get into yesterday's cabinet meeting at some other point. I mean, that was just a 3-hour vomit fest of cabinet officers falling all over themselves to, lick his feet and talk about how great he is. We'll save that for another time. For now, we just wait to see if Judge Dugan does the same thing, or if it just goes right to trial and a court rules on the merits one way or the other of what it was that she did that day in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. We will have today's history lesson coming up, and a visit with Melissa Kay from WFHR along the way as well. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Wisconsin as a game of cribbage with good friends. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm Stephanie Hoff for the Midwest Farm Report, along with you on a Wednesday morning. Cattle are the topic of conversation today with market advisor John Heinberg. We'll get to it after the break.
How does a soybean become a Dairyland seed difference maker? It starts in the labs of Corteva Agriscience, where Enlist E3 technology is designed to fight the toughest weeds for the greatest yield potential. Then it's hand-selected by Dairyland seed agronomists to be the ideal fit for Midwestern soils and conditions. Finally, it's tested on acres by farmers like you to ensure it's proven to outperform. It's a long road, but the only way to make a difference. Find your soybean difference maker at dairylandseedsoybeans.com.
Market advisor John Heinberg with Total Farm Marketing says the latest numbers bear out that the cattle herd in Texas is shrinking.
You get into the numbers sometimes. There's interesting trends that you're seeing. Texas is the number one cattle producing state in the United States, and their while placements for cattle going into feedlots was 94% of last year, which was actually a little heavier than expected. Cattle being placed in feedlots in Texas was at 75% of last year. Maybe that's an impact of the feeder cattle ban from cattle coming across the Mexican border, as well as maybe just concerns regarding screwworm finally making it into the United States. So some of those Texas cattle producers maybe not putting things out in the lot as aggressively as they have been in fears of that.
John Heinberg also notes that more cattle are moving north into states like Iowa, where the weather and feed sources may be more favorable. Stick around for markets next.
At the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, they know your business has always been something special. Now you can let customers know it too, in an instant, with the red and yellow Something Special from Wisconsin sticker. Joining the program gives you access to supplier and distribution information, marketing support, and a community of like-minded Wisconsin businesses. Best of all, you'll let people know that your work is done with care, quality, and love. You've always been something special. Visit somethingspecialfromwisconsin.com to make it official.
On the close yesterday from Chicago, cash corn was down 1 3/4 at $3.87.5. December new crop corn down 2 3/4 at $4.09.5. Everything else traded higher. Cash beans up 3 1/4 cents at $10.28 3/4. November new crop beans up 1 3/4, closing at $10.49.5. And cash and new crop wheat up 2 3/4 cents at $5.09.5. Class 3 milk contracts saw a double-digit rally towards the end of the day yesterday. And since Class 3 milk goes to make cheese, we saw that reflected in the cheese price. The 40-pound block cheese closed up 1.5 pennies at $1.81. AA butter tells us a different story. Butter closed down 1.5 nickels at $2.18.5 per pound. That's what's happening as we kick off a Wednesday morning. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
As Wisconsin is dropping a line in your favorite fishing spot, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be mostly sunny today with a high right around 75 this afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible tonight with a low dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, a shower early, then mostly sunny with a high in the low to mid 70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 49.
Hi, my name is Chuck Collins. I'm the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer and a member of the Patriotic Millionaires. I gave away my inheritance in my 20s, and I spent my career studying inequality in America. Do you know that the U.S. is more unequal today than we have been in 100 years? Did you know that in a few years we will have our first trillionaire, while about 40% of Americans working full-time don't make enough to support themselves, much less a family? Did you ever wonder if maybe, just maybe, these two things might be connected? Well, a recent study by the Rand Corporation estimates that in the last 50 years, about 80 trillion was redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. So
If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So wrong's enough that both are faded love.
Welcome back to today's history lesson, starting with Jeff Cook, who was born this day in 1949, passed away 3 years ago, the lead guitarist and fiddler for Alabama, who, of course, has that hit and so many more. I guess, how do I describe Alabama to Parker Olson here?
It's a weird place.
No, the band. The band.
Oh.
they were like a Taylor Swift, but for country music. But so instead of pop, they're country, and instead of an individual, it's a group. But they're everywhere on the charts, and they win every award all the time, year after year.
And pre-social media.
Well, yeah, they just were playing popular music, and year after year after year after year, they'd win all these awards, and it was finally a big deal. Like, wait, Alabama didn't win any awards this year. It's like,
in my head, it is like impossible to have gotten famous without social media.
I know, it's interesting that you said that. Like, oh, they did that without social media. Hello, Elvis Presley. Anybody?
Yes, I know, but it's just
we had radio stations, we had newspapers. I mean, we had things before social media. I know it sounds crazy, but it's how it is the way that we get into things now. I totally get that. It's all the little clips. For example, I would not have even thought of listening to that 2-hour podcast with Taylor Swift and Travis and Jason Kelce were it not for the little clips of it that I kept seeing on TikTok and on Instagram. And eventually it wore me down. I'm like, I think I like to listen to this.
That's how I've found most of the things that I like now.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well, I think you have to, because I mean, again, when we were growing up, the way you found it was you only had 3 channels and you only had like 3 radio stations in town, and they threw everything at you. And eventually you found out which things you liked and didn't like. Well, here, the modern day equivalent is you got unlimited channels, so you just got to scroll, and something sticks out at you. And I think that if Alabama hadn't existed back then and were around now with their talent and everything, I think they'd still find a way to get famous in the social media age.
That's the mark of a good band.
Yes, that's exactly it. Somebody told me, I asked for career advice as a college freshman, and I remember him saying, well, the cream always rises to the top. So if you're good, if you're the cream of the crop, you will eventually get there. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being good at it. And I'm still waiting. I'm hoping to get good at this someday real soon. Yeah. Let's see. On this day in 1955, Fats Domino made it into the top 10.
Me cry when you said goodbye. Ain't that a shame? My chill feel like.
All right, here's where, again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm again going to talk about another podcast that I listen to, A History of Rock and Roll in 500 Songs. And I say it because of this. As the host, Andrew Hickey, keeps bringing up all these different songs and artists like Fats Domino, and again, this is the 1950s, had to watch as over and over again their original music was covered by some bland white artist and went farther up the charts. As noted in today's history lesson, it reads like this: Fats Domino's Ain't That a Shame hits number 10, becoming the first ever R&B song to hit the top 10 on the pop chart. It peaked at number 10. 3 weeks later, the version by Pat Boone would hit number 1 on the charts. And then he'll play the 2 songs back to back, and you're just embarrassed. You hear Pat Boone trying to sound cool, and it's sadness. It just really is. So I feel like we're in a better place now. Let's see. This week in 1964, Disney put out its newest movie. It was a live action part animated feature, Mary Poppins, written by the Sherman Brothers.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheree. A sweep is as lucky can be. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim.
And of course, it'd be Dick Van Dyke, who is still with us. Julie Andrews as well. Here's where I find out whether classic movies, how long do they stay classic movies? So, Parker, Mary Poppins, ever see it?
I have not seen it.
Okay.
I'm ashamed to say
No,
because
no,
I
no,
know.
no.
It's a classic. I should have seen this movie, Pat.
No, there's things you should have been ashamed of. Not knowing last week about New Coke coming out and the big split. Okay, that you should have known. I was not expecting you to know Mary Poppins.
I have had multiple conversations since New Coke about how that was a ridiculous expectation of you.
Of me?
Yes.
I don't think I can agree with that. Again, this was huge. Coca-Cola had changed their recipe. How is that?
We're not doing this again.
Minstrels should still be singing songs of that. What a terrible thing it was. Anyway, so you're okay if you didn't know a movie that Disney released in 1964. That is totally understandable. Let's see. Roger puts up on Facebook, speaking of Elvis, this day in 1969, Elvis's milestone single Suspicious Minds was first released. It became the King's first Billboard #1 hit in 7 years. It was also his 17th #1 hit and his final #1 hit as well. So thank you, Roger, for throwing that one in. Let's throw in Tracy Chapman next. From her self-titled debut album, it raced to the top of the charts this week in 1988, in part because of a song y'all know. Who did the remake now?
Oh, Luke Combs.
You get a fast car. I want to get
When I was coaching for tennis during college, I had coached during tennis camp that my high school coach had been doing, and the remake of this song was very popular during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the coaches said, every time I hear this song, I don't think they say fast car. I hear fat ass car.
No.
No. I do. In the remake, I do hear that. Now that it's been pointed out to me.
Okay. Let's see. There is I was just looking at a Billboard article about this that said Luke Combs says Tracy Chapman pointed out a lyric mistake in his cover, and Luke Combs says, I wanted to crawl in a hole when I heard it. And it's not that big a mistake. The song's final line in there, it says, we got to make a decision. And he's saying, still got to make a decision. Doesn't strike me as that big a deal.
I am not moved by this change in lyrics.
No, but again, the fact that Luke Combs could not have been more, praising of Tracy Chapman. You could tell he really loved her. The album, like I said, really big back in 1988. I have said many a time, I don't get the infatuation with the remake. He doesn't really add any value to it. I'm still not sure why it caught fire the way that it did, other than that it's, a decent song. And it did all right. But again, the original was on an album, the debut album by Tracy Chapman. It was #1 this week in 1988. All right, let's move on to 1991. Another debut album, this one by Pearl Jam, and they released their debut album 10 in 1991. I believe that this was put in the history notes last year, and it would be Greg Bach that needed to tell me that was even flow, because right now you could tie me to an anthill and cover me with honey, and I wouldn't be able to tell you that it was even flow. Was the name of that song. In fact, here's how bad it got. Last night we were playing a trivia game with our daughter and a couple of grandkids. There's something called Jackbox. They're games that you can play on your computer or TV.
Yep.
And we're playing that, and one of the last questions was based on public opinion surveys, what were the quintessential top 3 bands of the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay. And they'd list, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Nirvana and all kinds of things. So they list 9 different things. You were supposed to list the top 3. And all of us gave Pearl Jam 0 votes, and yet Pearl Jam came off as like number 1 of what people said. What is the quintessential 90s band? So I am not in the Pearl Jam target audience, shall we say.
Yeah, I suppose. I guess Nirvana would have been my pick.
Yeah. Here's my wheelhouse. This next one is from 1977. This would be Jackson Browne with a live performance. You can still hear on the radio today. This would be the title track from Running on Empty. And here's the oh no, we've made Tony mad. What? How dare you not give Pearl Jam respect? It's just I just wasn't there at the time. Okay, it was the 90s. We had 2 daughters. It was nothing but Disney movies and Barney. I'm sorry, there was no time for Pearl Jam or Nirvana, anything like that. It was Aladdin. It was Beauty and the Beast. It was Little Mermaid. It was Lion King. That's it. That's the list. That's all I had time for. Not Pearl Jam. I'm sorry. Getting back to Jackson Browne here, who is singing Running on Empty in the background. From that album had these live songs that had not been released as studio cuts before. It's just one of those live albums that really caught on. And it included The Loadout and Stay, which we don't have time to play because The Loadout, I think, is like a 10-minute song or something like that. But anyway, it was all recorded this day in 1977 at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland, is where this was recorded 48 years ago today. Jackson Browne and Steve Martin just put out a new song along with Allison Martin. And it is a song, again, that I saw just on social media, I think on Facebook. And it's a song about getting older. And it's called Dear Time. And boy, I'll tell you, for somebody who's busy thinking about their retirement someday, I'm like, oh boy, that was, it's a reminder. Time doesn't care. Time is not, concerned with you.
Time is undefeated.
Yeah. Tony with a response. Pat, where did you learn your love for flannel if not from Eddie Vedder? Tony, we're in Wisconsin. It's everybody knows I got my love of flannel from Sean Duffy. No.
Oh God. No, I thought you were gonna say like Paul Bunyan. Oh God.
Thank you. It was an easy shot. I had to take it. On this day in 1991, as the Cold War was coming in its end phases here, the European community recognized the independence of the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And finally, a sad item to close with here on this day in 1990, 35-year-old Stevie Ray Vaughan died in a helicopter crash near East Troy after a concert at Alpine Valley. Earlier, he had appeared with Robert Cray, Buddy Guy, Eric Clapton, and his older brother, Jimmy Vaughan. So we remember Stevie Ray Vaughan as we go to break. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
What about the neighbor?
And Parker, to answer your other question, did I tell Melissa that the history segment had moved to 6:35? I don't think I did. So
yeah, I messaged you, Melissa, at like 34, going, "Oh, she
today."
Probably yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
I was like, she probably doesn't know.
I couldn't remember if I mentioned it offhand or not. But last week was crazy. There was this big parking lot party. It was insane. So, which is good because now we got plenty of time to talk about that today. In the future, if you want to come in at 6:35 for history, you can, because we decided we were just trying to cram too much in, so we're starting that earlier.
Okay.
And as far as guests go, if they can come in early, that's great. If you come in midway through, that's great. If you just come in now and we just talk about other stuff, that's all good too.
All right.
All right. which is fine because I mean we got Lilu, we got a parking lot party. I'm sure you got other things going on there.
Oh, we have more live remotes coming up here. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. See, so let me get to my notes over here on that. Oh, I have to go get some temperatures. That's right. Okay, so you got remotes. Anything else that I need to know about before we get going here?
Recipe submissions
Oh,
for our
yes.
cookbook. Let's talk about that.
All
I
right.
think it's finally up on our website.
Sounds good. All right, we'll be back in a minute 45.
We have links to our past stories and local reporting at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
Shop Furlough Mattresses Mega Mattress Sale. Get additional savings on top of our factory direct pricing. That's double the savings on your new mattress. Plus, save even more when you upgrade to an adjustable base. At Furlough, all of our mattresses.
You can now find Up North News on Blue Sky as well if you're looking for an alternative to the dumpster fire, formerly known as Twitter. And yes, we're still on Twitter too. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the social media joints. We are there, including segments like these where we get to have fun with our friend Melissa Kay from WFHR and WIRI, home of just the nicest little parking lot party that you could want for the station's 85th anniversary celebration last week. Melissa, how are you?
Good morning. I am excellent.
Wasn't that fun?
It was fun. We had such a great time. Thank you so much for coming and helping promote our party.
Absolutely. It was wonderful to be there. Everybody was so friendly. I've done a little write-up on the website, upnorthnewswi.com, which you can go read, but I can tell you I borrowed liberally some of the information that Melissa put in her write-up as well, which you can find over at civicmedia.us and on the WFHR homepage that you would find there, just because there was so much history. And I love that. I love history anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I love radio. So now you add radio plus history, and Pat just gets to nerd out. You had all these old radios in there. You had all these remembrances of.
Oh, yeah, I didn't send you those pictures yet.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. It was just great to be a part of it, and I'm sure the folks in the community had a lot of nice things to say while they came to visit as well.
Yeah, and we had so many nonprofits there that are regular guests on our show, and the outpouring of just everybody willing to come together and share the information that we need in our community. There's going to be more articles coming, I hope. I'm going to cross my fingers on this, but Pam Hilke, who manages our office, has so much history collected from over the years that there's opportunities for more history articles, Pat.
That's because Pam's been there since 1977.
Yes, this is true.
That's and there's a photo in your article and the one that we put at Up North News of her and James modeling the vintage jackets.
Yes, the shiny 80s jackets.
Those were all the rage. And down in the basement somewhere is mine from the college radio station, WUEC.
Nice.
There's one there from TV 13 as well. That's what you had to have. You had to have the shiny nylon jackets back
We
in
might
the
have
day
to bring
with
them
their
back.
logo. Yep.
I mean,
Oh,
everything's coming around again, so why
everything.
not?
Well, sure. I could totally see doing that. So
Mhm.
you could see that, all the newspaper clippings and the cookbook, because
Yes.
it felt like every radio station, well, the hometown full service ones, had a
Mhm.
cookbook back in the day, and WFHR was no exception. And in fact, that cover model from the 50th anniversary one 35 years ago was
Yeah.
part of the festivities last week
He
as well.
was. Milt Steele was the cover model for our 50th anniversary cookbook edition, and he was our celebrity judge for the staff dessert sweet off. I didn't win, but that's okay.
Oh yes, we can talk about that. What did you make?
I made rhubarb juice.
Well, Melissa,
Well,
I,
no,
I
I,
think
I was a
I'm
solid second. I was
okay.
second in both Milt's voting and the listener favorites. But
Okay.
no, it's fabulous. It's something my grandma Ruth used to make every summer when we were kids, and I loved it. It's so good.
Does it have bourbon in it or something? I mean, what's the key to
Jello.
making it not taste like Reuben or like rhubarb?
It has Jello,
Jello.
sugar, and orange juice, but little tiny amounts. It's mostly just rhubarb.
Oh, I thought you were going to say little tiny amounts of rhubarb just so it
No.
can be labeled as such. All right.
But the
that's good.
cookbook we're excited about, and we want to get listener submissions. We have it on our website. Right now it's in the carousel. So you
Mhm.
have to like scroll through the carousel at the top of the webpage to find it. We're hoping
Sure.
to get a static link that's just there.
Mhm.
But yeah, go there, you submit your recipes. You can just swing by with your recipe card and Pam will make a copy of it for you. It's super easy. We want to just gather all the recipes we can for our 85th anniversary edition, which is in November.
And it's very unusual that, again, because it is kind of an older station with the older radios and everything, it's actually not a copier. Pam puts it on a mimeograph machine and just rolls the little drum,
Right.
something
Puts the,
like that.
puts
Yeah.
the ink on it first
Yep.
with
Yep.
yep.
And it always smells so good. He's like, "Oh, don't stay in the mimeograph room too long. You'll pass out, You've got some live remotes coming up as well.
We do. Our next one is the Downtown Grand Affair on September 7th. We'll be there all day. This is a big event for our downtown businesses to come out and open their doors and invite people down. Our downtown is really pretty with the bridge and the lights and the I don't know. I think old-fashioned downtowns are they're cool.
Mm-hmm. They
Yep.
are.
And then we have the Lights of Love in November and the Rekindle the Spirit Parade also in November. So we're excited to get out in the community.
And folks, of course, are wondering, when's Pat going to get to the point? How's Lilu?
Lilu's good. We rearranged the cages now on the floor so that they can get in and out by themselves and I don't have to pick them up. They're getting used to the new space. They found a new place to hide. It's underneath a little table over there. So sometimes it's find the Lilu because you can't really see them. So, but we're adjusting. We're working on things.
Well, that makes it really incumbent to watch where you're walking.
Well, not in there. I do anyway, and I'm starting to get that because once they're out and about, I'm gonna have to watch where I'm walking all the time. So I am cognizant of it, but right now they're in a little locked in space. So
okay, no, that works out well. And how about your Labor Day weekend? Anything coming up special?
I'm gonna do more sewing. I've really been getting into making these block patterns, and I'm still working on mine, and it's a uphill battle.
Like with a Singer sewing machine type of situation?
I have a Husqvarna.
I don't even know if there are Singer sewing machines anymore.
Yeah,
It used
there
to
are.
be.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a big one.
It used to be there was nothing but, and now
Brother, Singer, Husqvarna,
Husqvarna.
Elna.
Them as chainsaws. I wouldn't sew with a chainsaw, but I suppose, if you get the
make
machinery
snowmobiles.
just right. Yeah, good
Yeah,
point. Melissa K, you can catch her at 105.5 WIRI and 97.5 WFHR. Melissa, thanks again for having us out for the anniversary party, and you have a great
absolutely.
holiday weekend.
Yeah, you too, Pat.
All right, take care. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking to Randi Weingarten, the national president of the American Federation of Teachers. Talked to her early this morning. She's on her way out to an event in Wisconsin later today. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Parker decided he did not want to play with us this segment.
Oh, poor Parker.
He's
He's
You have
busy.
me too?
He's busy. He's got things to do apparently.
I wasn't sure that I was supposed to.
Have you ever not been on with Melissa? Has she ever scared you away before?
Well, no, I was afraid of Lilu.
You should be. They are very, very scary. Now they're guarding their new space that they found under this table, and every time I come close, they grunt at me. I didn't know a pigeon could make such a scary sound.
Yeah. At some point, you're gonna hear that in your sleep and wake up, and Lulu's gonna be right there,
over me.
right on your chest, looking down, going,
Feed me.
feed me. You know?
Give me rice.
Yep.
I own this place.
All right, Melissa, take
All right.
care. We'll see you
Have
next
a good
week.
day, guys.
Yep, bye.
Thanks, mostly you too.
Carrying out covert influence operations in Greenland, which Trump has repeatedly says he wants the U.S. to control. This is ABC News.
As Wisconsin is brats on the grill for a tailgate, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Shallie Pittman, filling in for Savannah Tomei Olson. The Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program is Wisconsin's flagship conservation effort. The program funds land acquisition and helps expand access to outdoor recreation. The program's roots are bipartisan. It's named for two former governors, Warren Knowles, a Republican, and Gaylord Nelson, a Democrat. Knowles Nelson was established in 1989. Since then, the state legislature has reauthorized the program several times, but it's not included in the state's new 2-year budget. Absent legislative action, the program's slated to end 10 months from now, on June 30th, 2026. Republicans and Democrats have separate proposals to continue funding before then. The Republican bill would fund Knowles Nelson until 2030. It requires the DNR to prioritize projects for property development rather than acquisition, and it restricts the acquisition of land in excess of $1 million. The bill's co-authored by Representative Tony Kurtz, who also serves on the legislature's Budget Committee. In one of those budget sessions earlier this summer, Kurtz said he wanted to make sure reauthorization was done right.
We've met with so many different stakeholders, so many different groups, so many fellow legislators on getting this done.
Yesterday, Democratic state lawmakers announced their own Knowles Nelson bill. Here's State Senator Jody Habush-Sinekin, a Democrat.
I fear that the oversight process laid out in their AB 315 is simply unworkable.
The Democratic proposal would give the program $72 million a year. The bill would create an oversight board, which would sign off on projects that cost more than $2.5 million. The Democratic bill is circulating for co-sponsorship. The Republican bill was introduced in June. I'm Shallie Pittman, 92.7 WMDX News.
A close call for the Crew. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers and Diamondbacks take to the field again tonight in Milwaukee. Last night, the Crew blew a 6-0 lead. It took a sac fly from the Brewers' Isaac Collins in the bottom of the ninth to win 9-8 over the D-backs. Right-hander Shelby Miller was traded by Arizona to Milwaukee and was given the win after shutting down the Diamondbacks in the final innings. So what was it like facing your old team?
It was weird. I've never been traded during the season. So, to see familiar faces that, were on your side, a month ago, it's a little different.
NFL, the Packers adding 16 players to their practice squad today. That after reducing the roster to 53 yesterday. College football, Wisconsin hosts Miami of Ohio, 8 o'clock tomorrow night in their season opener. The Badgers finished just 5-7 last season.
We know we got a chip on our shoulder because, nobody's talking about us. No one cares about us. But this is where we go show the world what we are, who we are now, and what we can do.
That's the Badgers center, Jake Renfro, with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Download the Civic Media app in the Google Play or Apple App Store and take us everywhere. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be mostly sunny today with a high right around 75 this afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible tonight with a low dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, a shower early, then mostly sunny with a high in the low to mid 70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 50.
Hey, Gordy, did you know Dane County Humane Society is calling on our community to help find new homes for every available animal as part of the nationwide Clear the Shelters adoption campaign running through August?
I did, John. I also heard to encourage adoptions, Dane County Humane Society will offer reduced adoption fees for a different animal group each week, leading up to a special adoption finale event on Saturday, August 23rd.
Well, that's great. Animal shelters across the country, including here in Dane County, are facing unprecedented challenges with slower adoptions, high intake of strays.
Good morning, Brittany.
Good morning.
How are ya?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Still got the hoodies going.
Yep.
All
Going
right.
strong.
You have a strong hoodie game? You got like dozens of them?
I sure do.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. 30 seconds.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It is 7:06 on this Wednesday morning, August 27th. Nice to have you back here up north. Live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Parker Olson is producing things down in Madison Studio A2. Coming up later this hour, we're going to be talking to the national president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. She is on her way to Wisconsin as we speak for an event later today, all about the big bloated boondoggle from Trump and congressional Republicans and the damage it's going to do to education, healthcare, and just life overall in the state of Wisconsin, as well as around the country. So we'll talk to Randi Weingarten about that. Coming up in just a few minutes from now, about 7:35, we'll get that started. And in our next hour, we'll talk to author Laura Bird about book banning. They seem to spring up this time of year like weeds. When the school year gets going, there are people who talk about banning books from certain school libraries. We'll talk about what motivates that, some of the misinformation about it, and what you can do when these kinds of measures come up in your local school. That's all along the way. Temperatures right now include 53 here in the Chippewa Valley, 55 in La Crosse, it's 53 in Amory, 54 in Oshkosh, and at the Fork and Knife restaurant in Manitowoc, it is 55 degrees right now. So we've got a nice pleasant morning here that takes us to Brittany and a forecast for today, which seems almost as pretty and picture perfect as yesterday, with maybe a change in the not too distant future. Brittany, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am pretty good.
You're still
this
doing
cold front.
Yes, which is why I see we still got the hoodie going here. As we were talking yesterday, Hans Breitenmoser had to lend his hoodie to his daughter. I had to lend a hoodie to my grandson, and it's like, how many hoodies? Some people just collect all manner of things. I've maybe got a half a dozen hoodies. How's your hoodie game over there?
Oh, it's strong. I have a ton of hoodies. It's like the one thing I get when I go visit and travel places or go see something cool. Like I'm wearing Pictured Rocks hoodie right now. So, it's a destination kind of gathering like I like to do. But then, hey, it's perfect for camping. It's perfect to lend. It's perfect for mornings like this. It's great.
Yeah, I was going to say it's perfect for about 9-10 months out of the year, or like right now in the middle of summer in August. It's hoodie weather for today, one more day.
Sure is. It is 43 degrees in Antigo and Merrill. That is the cold spot in the state. Meanwhile, Ashland and Madeline Island sitting pretty at 61 degrees right now. But that's because it's cloudy. And that's because you've got rain rolling through this morning. This cold front is going to be sagging south through the state tonight and overnight. But throughout the day today, we're still going to see a lot of sunshine, especially south and west in the state. But further north and east, those showers are already starting to move through, like I mentioned, mainly off Lake Superior this morning, kind of hugging that border between the UP and Wisconsin through this afternoon. And then that front pushes everything through later tonight. So some light showers
maybe some thunder out there. These are not going to be strong or severe storms. They're really only going to bring a trace of rain to 1/4 of an inch at max. Highs today still hitting the mid 70s all across the state. So this is very comfortable conditions. By tomorrow, after the cold front passes, we are looking at 60 to 65 degrees for a good eastern half of the state. But out west, especially southwest, you could still hit some upper 70s tomorrow. So this cold front isn't really reinforcing anything too wild. But when we go Thursday night, I will say chances of frost far northeast do start to sink in. Just far. Now, as we go into the weekend, cooler 60s on Friday, mid 60s to mid 70s on Saturday and Sunday. And then we're going to be in the upper 70s as we move into Monday for Memorial Day. So it is warming up. Summer weather is still coming back, but still a cold blast today.
Labor Day. Now, before anybody goes, oh, it's a rerun. They're talking about Memorial Day. No, Labor Day is what we're talking about.
Oh, I'm
here.
sorry. Did I say that?
It's all right. Hey, we
in the spirit of summer.
Exactly.
Live
well,
radio.
And that's when you're more likely to get, 60s would be Memorial Day. Labor Day, you'd want to see your 80s. Oh, look, Pat's whining again. Let's go to Robin Tigerton. Good morning. Partly cloudy and 50. Yesterday I had mowing jobs in Wittenberg, and highways 29 and 45 were busy with traffic before the Labor Day weekend. Today I've got lawns to mow in Tigerton. The weather has been perfect. I love the fall-like weather, he writes. It's another hoodie start. I keep them in my truck. That way you can wear them in the morning. Then by noon, take the hoodie off as it gets warmer. In other words, layers. What do we tell everybody?
Season.
Yep. It's layer season already. Have your layers nearby. and it is. That is, one of the pleasant parts of living here is that if you've got a collection of hoodies, the way Brittany does, you're not you're not wearing the same thing over and over again. So,
Nope.
All right, Brittany, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next hour.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, sign up for our daily newsletter. UpNorthNewsWI.com is the place to go. Hit subscribe up in the top banner. In today's edition, it includes a story about the old Pabst Brewery in Milwaukee, which, believe it or not, I actually worked there for a week. Once I was doing a bunch of different office jobs and worked in the offices at Pabst for a while. But anyway, the old brewery still there, being refurbished into all kinds of other uses. And I'm going to tell you the place is called Best Place at the historic Pabst Brewery. And I know that throws some people off until I remind them that Jacob Best was the name of the guy that started the brewery that eventually became Pabst. So Best Place is named for Jacob Best. And Best Place just scored a $50,000 grant as part of the American Express National Trust for Historic Preservation, backing historic small businesses. It will give Best Place and other restaurants around the U.S. a chance to invest in potential renovations and expansion. So if you're in the Milwaukee area and you have not been over in the old Pabst Brewery area recently, you should go take a look at some of the buildings that are there and the ways that they have been redone. Also in the newsletter is an article from Selena Heller talking about Wisconsin retirees who recognize that Social Security, having just turned 90 years old, needs to be strengthened, not threatened, the way it's being threatened right now by the current regime in Congress. And there's also an article in there about a new climate lawsuit. You see these in several states, Hawaii most notably, but it's been in Montana, I want to say Florida and New York, but now here in Wisconsin as well, where young people helped by nonprofits are filing lawsuits to make sure that state laws are adhere to the state constitution when it comes to ensuring that young people have life, liberty, and safety, and that includes the environment they live in. And we're going to be talking more about this with Melissa Baldauff in this week's Climate Check. That'll be coming up at 8:20 here on these mornings, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. Tony shouting layers on YouTube with what has to be 7 or 8 exclamation points on there. Yes, we're very much in favor of layers here. The Brewers were winners once again. They had to not come back, but they had to protect what had been an easy lead, 6-0 on Monday, and again 6-0 last night. But in both cases, they turned into nail biters. Isaac Collins had a bases loaded sacrifice fly in the bottom of the 9th to bring home the winning run, 9-8 the final. William Contreras and Bryce Terang each hit 2-run homers for the Brewers. Game 3 of that series takes place this evening. Once again, the pregame starts at 6:05 on Civic Media stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Park Falls, and Hayward. I'm going to read now from an article in the New York Times, Katie Rogers, White House reporter. And usually I'll look at an article and then maybe interpret some of what I'm seeing here. But Katie Rogers' writing really gets to the heart of the essence of the nauseating spirit of whatever that thing was that happened in the White House yesterday. Ostensibly, it was known as a cabinet meeting, but it lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes. And it was just 3 hours and 15 minutes of his cabinet members going around the table and offering him praise. That's all it was. It was a televised meeting that lasted almost half the workday. Katie Rogers writes, in front of a wall of cameras, the old Apprentice host offered a clear window into the way he was running his administration, starting with an ego that appeared to need frequent feeding and blustery stamina. This has never been done before, the president said at one point, in between calling on cabinet secretaries to speak and marveling over reporters' ability to hold microphones and cameras aloft for several hours. Yeah, they were really looking forward to that part. What was supposed to be a quick photo spray becomes 3 hours of cabinet officers taking their turns, she writes, each working a little bit harder than the last to offer Mr. Trump praise and assure him that they were working to tackle his long list of grievances. They talked about, transgender sports, violent crime crackdowns, the ongoing threat of windmills, the foul state of traffic medians, the speed with which water flows, and attempts at securing peace deals for as many as 7 international wars, a number that seems to grow by the day, she writes. Mr. Trump, a pop culture maven, had relatively little to say about the biggest news of the day. That would be Taylor Swift's engagement to Travis Kelce, other than saying, I wish them a lot of luck. The cabinet event was billed as a celebration of American workers ahead of Labor Day. Yet with a running time of 3 hours and 15 minutes, it would be considered a wildly inefficient meeting at any other workplace. The actual policy menu was just gristle in comparison to red meat politics. But for an afternoon, the Trump White House really was as radically transparent as Trump likes to say it is. There's something really nice about just, the openness of what we're doing, Mr. Trump mused as he closed out the gathering. He also seemed interested in dangling the idea that at any moment, his cabinet members could be humiliated on national TV. He said, each one of these people spoke, apparently happy with their performances. If I thought one of them did badly, I would call that person out. As the hours ticked by, Trump's cabinet members highlighted the cost in hours, in money, perhaps in karma, of keeping a seat at his table. And many did so while testing the apparently imaginary boundaries of the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal employees from engaging in political activities on the job. The updates ranged from the enthusiastic to the servile, and they went on for hours. Lori Chavez DeRemer, the labor secretary, implored the president to come to her agency and look at his big, beautiful face on a banner. And if you've never seen that, go look at it. Go look up the photo of how in front of the Labor Department and perhaps a couple of other Washington, D.C. buildings, they have put up banners that are several stories tall with Trump's face on them. And if you're looking for them on social media, no doubt you will see those banners compared side by side with similar banners on government buildings in Moscow and China. There was Robert F. Kennedy talking about radioactive shrimp and saving the whales from wind power. The same Robert Kennedy Jr. who once sawed the head off a whale and then drove it home. Trump and Kennedy engaged in back and forth about the rates of autism in young boys, science having nothing to do with anything in the conversation. And on it went with one of his cabinet members saying, this is the only thing I wish for, he says, is that the Nobel Committee finally gets its act together and realizes you are the single finest candidate since the Nobel Peace Prize was created. Thus ends the 3-hour cabinet meeting that you all paid for at the White House today. Randi Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, will be joining us in about 15 minutes. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
This portion of John and Gordy in the Morning is brought to you by Madison Hearing Aid Center. If you're having trouble with your hearing, do something about it. Talk with the good folks at Madison Hearing Aid Center. They're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road. Call them and make an appointment at 608-249-4077. You can take an initial hearing test online at MadisonHearingAidCenter.com. Don't let your hearing loss frustrate you anymore. They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Look, it's probably too early to have a conversation about the 2026 race for governor in Wisconsin, but our readers spoke and they asked for our take on this. So we delivered an extensive breakdown of who is running and who might be running in both the Democratic and Republican primaries for the first open race for governor in 16 years. In that breakdown, I identified the top 4 potential contenders to be the candidate for the Democratic Party. They are Attorney General Josh Kaul, Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and State Senator Kelda Royce. There are more candidates we're monitoring too. This primary will be a remarkable opportunity for voters to choose the path forward for the party. But on the Republican side, it's less about the voters and more about the endorsement of one man, Donald Trump. Because whoever gets Trump's endorsement is all but a lock to win that primary. Check out my column for much, much more.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation Area.
Are you ever questioning when life will slow down? Are you ever thinking of just relaxing and enjoying the simple things? All of this is possible, even while still being in the workforce. Worthington, Minnesota is a town growing, yet it's nothing like metro life. Professional and labor jobs, a beautiful lake, bike trails, recreation, acres of public hunting, festivals, and great people. Slow down. We're just a short drive away, so come join us. Worthington, it's worth a look.
There's a chance that during the break you might have heard Dan Schaefer from the Recombobulation Area talking about some of the political news that he follows. So I just wanted to remind you that one of his most recent articles that he talked about here yesterday is called A Too Early Breakdown of the 2026 Race for Governor in Wisconsin. And of course, you'll find that over at the recombobulationarea.news. And as the political editor for Civic Media, you find a lot of what he's covering on civicmedia.us as well. Also, on one of the Civic Media newscasts here this morning, they're talking about the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program, or just the Stewardship Program for short, a program that began back in 1989 and has been renewed throughout the years as a way to purchase land for conservation, provide easements to protect land from overdevelopment, and then do things to the land that make it more accessible to the public for recreation and relaxation rather than, another strip mall and another golf course. It has for years been a one of the shining stars of bipartisanship. Back when Republicans were more like, Teddy Roosevelt Republicans, and understood that this is a big country. There's plenty of room for development. There's plenty of room for people. But there's some places that if you don't protect them, if you don't conserve them, they're going to be lost forever. It was Teddy Roosevelt Republicans that gave us the national park system, the anniversary of which we celebrated, was it yesterday? But that's not how it's working anymore. because as the Republican Party has been captured more by, say the William McKinley Republicans who were in charge just before Teddy Roosevelt, the people who think you can run the economy based on tariffs, the people who feel like there's no piece of land that can't be bulldozed and made money off of it. It's this group of Republicans that basically took it out of the budget. Governor Tony Evers proposed a large reauthorization for the program, about $1 billion over 10 years. And instead, Republicans removed the program entirely. And so the program is funded through 2026. But after that, it would go away. Well, now both Republicans trying to save face and Democrats are trying to save the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program. And it's that they disagree on the manner in which to do it that is noteworthy right now. But I'm going to remain hopeful that the two sides can come together and find ways to renew the program, provide the oversight that Republicans are looking for, while continuing its core mission of making sure that Wisconsin remains this beautiful place to live in, to work in, to study in, to do business in. And we do, like I say, have room. We have room for farming. We have room for recreation. We have room for development. But to just allow it to happen completely without restraint, without any thought of conservation, would just be an absolute tragedy. So Democrats have put out their version of the legislation. There would be an oversight board, 17 people on there, $72 million in spending each year, which is up from the current $33 million, but again, less than what Governor Evers was proposing, which would have been up to $100 million per year. Of the $72 million in spending that would be authorized under the Democratic bill, about $17 million would be for land acquisition, $45 million for upkeep and repair of current property so that we can enjoy these places. Because again, it makes no sense to turn a place into a recreational area and then not do the maintenance to keep it a nice place to go. Another $8 million would be for local boat facilities and $2 million more for motorized recreation programs. Under the Democratic bill, projects costing $2.5 million or more would require approval by this new board. And if that board did not take up a project for review within 120 days or 4 months, it would be considered automatically approved. That, of course, is in response to what Republicans had been doing with stewardship programs, and that was bottling them up in committee without any timeline at all. So they didn't have to go on record as saying they were against conservation programs. They just simply had to keep them bottled up in committee and never have them come up for a vote. Republicans that put forward their own version of the bill as well that would bring back some kind of a stewardship program. Again, it would be with some oversight. I believe the Republican bill was about $1 million that would require a board approval in order to move forward. The authors of the Republican proposal are Tony Kurtz and Patrick Teston of Stevens Point, and they say they are looking forward to working with Democrats to reform and reauthorize the stewardship program, according to Teston. He says he looks forward to reviewing the proposal brought forward by my Democrat colleagues to see where we can work together and find common good. Well, if you're still unable to actually say the word Democratic when talking about the Democratic Party, I have reason to cast doubt on whether you're actually going to be negotiating in good faith. But, again, that's another one of those own the libs kinds of things, is to misstate the name of the party. It's really funny if you're a Republican, apparently. So that's where we sit with the stewardship program, currently set to expire at the end of 2026. And now with fairer maps, it becomes a little bit easier for voters to see if Republicans want to head into the 2026 cycle saying that they are doing more than paying lip service to conserving land in Wisconsin for future use, for our grandkids and for our current recreational and relaxation needs. So more to come on that. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the president, the national president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
.7 WMDX. Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Where do Wisconsin's Farm Service Agency offices stand amid funding and staffing turbulence? I'm Stephanie Hoff for the Midwest Farm Report along with you, and we'll get an answer from the new executive director after this.
Don't let sick calves get you down and drain your profits. Get your calves up and moving with BioVet's Calf Electrolyte. Our Baselite product contains balanced electrolytes for restoring and maintaining proper fluid levels and scouring calves. Baselite also provides additional energy to support recovery. It's easy to mix, and calves are easy to drink it down to the last drop. Learn more about Baselite at bio-vet.com.
Innovation, that's BioVet. Sandy Chalmers joins us. She's the newly appointed executive director of Wisconsin's Farm Service Agency. Sandy says FSA did have staff take that deferred resignation offered to government employees, but they do have temps working across offices that are handling the busy season well.
We have temporary employees working in our county offices, and, just the fact that all of these American Relief Act programs are rolling out while we're doing acreage reporting, which is the busiest time of year in any FSA office, and looking at how quickly the applications are being received, processed, and the payments are going out, we're in pretty good shape here in Wisconsin FSA. I will say that our employees are working really hard around the clock to get these payments processed and out the door. I think we're in good shape here in Wisconsin.
Sandy Chalmers is the executive director of Wisconsin's Farm Service Agency, speaking to FSA's staff capacity. We'll take a look at more farm news after this.
Unique farming operations need unique financial solutions. Ag Country Farm Credit Services offers customized financing that fits any size farm, ranch, or agribusiness. The next time you're in the market for more land, equipment, facilities, or maybe even an operating loan, contact the team at Ag Country. They know agriculture and will work for you. Ag Country. Focused on ag, focused on you. Ag Country is an equal opportunity lender.
This week, Professional Dairy Producers is giving you a chance to join the discussion on some critical and sometimes tough farm topics. Think water quality, farm regulations, and rural infrastructure, for example. PDP is hosting free meetings on farms that are open to the public. These are called ACE Twilight meetings. The evening will kick off with a farm tour at 6 p.m., followed by ice cream and discussions between farmers, community leaders, and elected officials. Tonight, the host farm is Grota Goot Dairy Farm in Newton. On Thursday, it'll be at Rosie Lane Holsteins in Watertown. Learn more at pdpw.org. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
Connecting audiences, powering brands. This is Civic Media. Learn more at civicmedia.us/advertise.
It is going to be mostly sunny today with a high right around 75 this afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible tonight with a low dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, a shower early, then mostly sunny with a high in the low to mid 70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 49.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and connected to your local community. Here's Terry Barr with the Civic Media Radio Network.
If you're a fan of Brewers baseball, there's a new reason to celebrate. A just-released survey by the Action Network ranks American Family Field at number 3 for its hot dogs. Fans buy more than 8,300 at every home game and at a tasty price, a little more than $4 each. It gives Milwaukee one of the best affordability scores out of all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums. The Mets are last with the most expensive hot dog at close to $8. So who's the top dog? Seattle is number 1. And by the way, the Cubs hot dog lands them at 12.
Welcome back. It's time for our homeroom segment where we highlight public schools and the threats they face from politicians and grifters alike. We have a special guest this morning, the national president of the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, Randi Weingarten. She's en route right now to Eau Claire for an event later today called Fighting Back, a Western Wisconsin community forum. She'll be joined by labor leaders, including AFT Wisconsin President John Shelton, who we heard from on Monday, Representative Christian Phelps, who visited with us last Wednesday, and State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jill Underley. So this is a panel that clearly knows what is currently spewing out of Washington, D.C. I talked to Randi Weingarten just around 5 o'clock this morning, just before she got on the plane to head this way. And I started by asking what motivated her to attend today's event right here in the Heartland.
So first, I never go where I'm not invited. And I was asked to come by our Wisconsin leadership and membership to talk to them in Eau Claire about what the impact of this, of the federal policies are on Wisconsin. And, what has happened in terms of the 3rd district, instead of the current occupant of the 3rd congressional district helping people in Wisconsin, it looks like he's more interested in currying favor with Donald Trump. And so we wanted to really talk to members and talk to community activists about what the real deal is in terms of the impact of the bill that passed this summer. And frankly, how there's a rollback instead of actually helping people have a better economic life, it's really hurting people. So whether it's getting rid of the clean energy jobs, or whether it's the what has happened in the rollbacks of nutritional services, what's happening in terms of the rollbacks of Medicaid, which is really going to hurt places like healthcare centers in Black River Falls, in Sparta. There's real impacts in this bill that basically gave a tax cut to the rich. So we wanted to talk about this and talk about it in terms of what the real deal is. And that's why I'm coming to Wisconsin today. I've been in Wisconsin many, 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 many times, but I'm really honored to be with the people who make a difference in the lives of others today.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned all of those other areas. It would be enough if just education leaders talked about the cuts separately, or healthcare leaders, or people about local services, but there appear to be no silos in this effort to convey all of the damage in this mega bill.
No, there's no silos. And in fact, actually there is one silo: billionaires. Billionaires did very, 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 very well in this bill. But what's happened is, and you see it in Mr. Trump's poll numbers, you see it in terms of, the dystopian fear that people have in America right now, the division, the fear. We're far from a golden age. What we're seeing is that people voted for him because they wanted a better life. And as a labor movement, we know that. We fight every day for a better life for working people. So people have a good life. They're entitled to a good life. That's what workers deserve for the hard work they put in every day. But what's happened is, between the increases in prices, the decreases in affordability, and now all this federal policy that seems to make it worse, it's not a surprise to me that Donald Trump is now changing the agenda and trying to talk about crime, because the working people are having a hard harder time right now. And there's no silos, you're right. So it's not just about the abandonment of public education and higher education that he's done, but it's all these kind of foundational supports that federal policy had done to help people have a better life.
Talking to Randi Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, coming to Wisconsin for a special event today about the cuts in the Trump mega bill. And I've heard you describe these cuts as children facing, which I take to mean you're not going to take care of these cuts by buying, fewer staplers for the classrooms and some extra equipment in the cafeteria.
No.
Just how direct will parents and children and educators feel from these cuts?
So there's several different ways they're going to feel it. This is what people are going to feel immediately. SNAP, or nutritional services. We basically, in America, try to make sure we subsidize every child's lunch and breakfast. That's going to change. We're going to go back to lunch shaming, which is one of the cruelest things that we can do to kids, meaning that they have to pay for their lunch or show that they are poor in order to get their lunch for free. That's really terrible to do in a school. That's going to happen almost immediately because of all the red tape. Then let's take special needs kids. Under the federal law right now, and sorry, I am a social studies teacher, there are two ways that we help special needs kids. One is through something called the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities and in Education Act. That money should have been increased. It has been increased every year. It was flat. It was not increased this year. And so what's happening is districts have to find more and more money themselves. And number two, right now, even worse, the grants that were the secondary grants that many districts got, those grants have been cut by Linda McMahon. So that's making it harder. Like after school and summer school, we got some of them replaced, but that's making it harder. And number three, Medicaid, it's called different things in different states, but it's pays for things like wheelchairs and accessibility and OTs and PTs. And every parent with a kid with a disability understands what I'm talking about. All that stuff is being pulled back. So districts, if you have a kid who has mobility issues, you need a PT. If you don't have a physical therapist, then how's that kid going to go to school? So what's happening is that districts all across Wisconsin are scurrying. And in Wisconsin, what happened when Scott Walker cut all that funding statewide? You saw what happened to scores. You saw what happened to schools. And so this is happening in lots of different places. And districts are basically saying, what are we supposed to do? Effectively, they have to go to the taxpayers next year to get a tax increase. So what Donald Trump has done is he's forced, if school districts want to have these services, they're forcing people to pay more taxes locally so that Donald Trump could give a tax cut to billionaires.
And finally, there continue to be large crowds that show up at events like this, at listening sessions, primarily for Democrats, but the occasional Republican pops up. And again, a large crowd wants to show up. Even though the bill is passed, the bill can't be stopped anymore. Why do you think that is? And then to wrap things up moving forward, what is it that you would like people to do?
So it's really important. And again, I'm putting my social studies hat on right now. We have never been in a moment like this in America. And I don't care. And look, I actually left the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. I said, no, I don't want to be part of it anymore. I want to have a little bit more independence here. I don't care if you're a Republican, an independent, a Democrat. In America, our voice matters and people's voices matter. And these politicians need to be accountable to the people on the ground, not so scared of Donald Trump that they don't listen to the people on the ground. Now, I understand why they're scared of Donald Trump. He bullies people. There's a lot of screeds on Twitter. I understand why people are afraid. But if you're a politician elected to represent District 3, you got to represent the people in District 3. And then that's part of the reason why people have to show up. People have to exercise their voice. You can't just exercise your voice a minute before an election. This has to be about what is good for Americans. And for us, what is good for working people? Working people made America. Working people deserve to have policy in America that helps them, not hurts them. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Randi Weingarten is National President of the American Federation of Teachers. Randi, thank you very much. You've been very generous with your time. Safe travels.
Thank you so much.
And there's Randi Weingarten. Talked to her about 5 o'clock this morning before she hopped on the plane to head out for the event in Eau Claire later today. So there was only so much ground that we could cover. For example, one of the areas we didn't get into was the way that this regime is trying to all but abolish the U.S. Department of Education. And by the way, for folks going, why do you say regime? Why don't you just say Trump administration? There's actually a reason for that. It would be called the Trump administration if it were just as an executive branch facing some guardrails from either Congress or the United States Supreme Court. But the fact that Congress and the Supreme Court have become wholly owned subsidiaries of Trump Incorporated means you basically have a regime right now. The minority party, in this case, the Democratic Party, can't do much. Whether Republicans or Democrats are in the minority, there's only so much they can do. Our system works with its checks and balances if there are people within your own parties who say, sir or ma'am, I agree with you much of the time, but not on this one. And there have been more times than any of us can count the number of instances where, again, if we still had, say, a John McCain, or if Mitt Romney had a spine, would be able to stand up and say, I'm sorry, sir, you can't impose tariffs unilaterally. That's something only Congress can do. You can't abolish a cabinet agency. That's only something Congress can do. But Congress and the Supreme Courts, they're just letting this all go. I mean, we're actually to the point now where Trump mused yesterday about changing the name of the Department of Defense back to the War Department because he says it sounds nicer. I mean, this is the kind of thing we're dealing with these days. So that's why I say regime. So they're going after the U.S. Department of Education and talking about giving education back to the states, quote unquote. We're giving education back to the states. But state education leaders are going to tell you, whether it's at this event today in Eau Claire or any other time, that they're getting the buck passed to them, but not the bucks. They're not getting any of the support that they would otherwise be getting from a federal government that wanted to operate in partnership to educate our children. No different than this current legislature in Madison. Again, does not want to be a partner in the education of our children. They want the dismantling and the privatization of our public schools. And they do it slowly, year after year, with funding that does not keep up with inflation, and instead pours more resources into a voucher program for schools that perform no better. There's zero empirical evidence that on the whole they perform better, but they can bend certain rules, they can discriminate in certain ways, and they help, again, move us toward an era where people can actually make corporate profits and shareholder dividends off the education of our children. Those are the folks that are in charge right now. And so for somebody like Randi Weingarten to come to Wisconsin and all of these other leaders to gather together to call public attention to it is a necessary thing in this day and age. Because again, the bill may have passed. A lot of these cuts are going to happen. And it's going to take a very long time to recover from them, if at all. But one of the first things you do is try to stop the bleeding. Stop letting things get worse. And that won't happen now until, the next midterm elections, provided those midterm elections actually go on without being rigged or otherwise obstructed. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Earl Ingram, Sean O'Malley, Joe Sapecki, all coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. We'll be back.
This portion of the John and Gordy Show is brought to you by Madison Hearing Aid Center, 4706.
John and Gordy Show. I'm not aware of any John and
Helping
Gordy
people
show.
change their lives by improving their hearing. They offer fast and flexible.
They sound like a
appointments with
couple of
individualized
knuckleheads.
care.
I know. I mean,
Hearing
that's a
Aid
perfectly fine show, but that's not this show.
Center online. They
It's just their commercials that we're happy to talk over.
help you
True.
too. Call
We'll
them at
gladly talk over
608-249-4077. Don't let hearing loss frustrate you anymore. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hi, my name is Chuck Collins. I'm the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer. I gave away my inheritance in my 20s and spent the next few decades studying inequality in America. We're more unequal today than we have been in our country's history. Why? Well, a lot of it has to do with the federal tax code. Did you know if you make $100,000 working and a billionaire makes $100,000 selling stock, you will pay $9,000 more in taxes than the billionaire because of the tax code? Did you know that if you own a modest house in Richland Center and a billionaire owns 2 yachts, 3 planes, 4 Picassos, 8 racehorses, and $900 billion of stock, you will pay more in wealth taxes than the billionaire because of the tax code? I think that's a bunch of baloney. I'm Chuck Collins. I'm a patriotic millionaire, and I approve this message.
Found an injured, sick, or orphaned wild animal? Dane County Humane Society's Wildlife Center can help. Call 608-287-3235 or visit giveshelter.org/wildlife for what to do next.
Let's go Brewers!
You can go to the Brewers.
Wait, Todd, what?
It's Free Ticket Friday, Terry. A chance to win a 4-pack of Brewers tickets several times every Friday. Great seats, by the way.
Okay, so download the free Civic Media app, find your local station, and listen for the keyword. Then text it through the app for your chance to win in this statewide contest.
Right now it's 53 degrees here in the Chippewa Valley. It is 56 in La Crosse. Oshkosh, you're at 56. Amory, 55. And in front of Rooster's Restaurant in Racine, it is 54 degrees right now. Coming up later across the Civic Media Radio Network, the Maggie Dawn Show is on from 4 until 6. And let's see, today on the program, she's got State Representative Jody Emerson from the Chippewa Valley showing up at about 4:30 this afternoon. And then after 5 o'clock, an interesting bipartisan slate here. You've got former Republican Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen and Mike Tate, the former chair of the state Democratic Party. They are 2 members of the Democracy Defense Project, and they will be talking about the attacks on mail-in voting by Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. I'm not aware of anybody else, honestly, who's going after mail-in voting with as much prominence as Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And why we're letting that happen is beyond me. But to credit Republicans, and again, I've talked about that spinal fortitude that more Republicans need. I'd like to see it out of current elected officials, but I'll take it from former elected officials like J.B. Van Hollen and others who are standing up as part of the Democracy Defense Project and saying, no, mail-in voting is working just fine. It works fine in Wisconsin for Republican voters, for Democratic voters, for independent voters. And so J.B. Van Hollen and Mike Tate will be talking to Maggie Dawn about that. coming up at 5 o'clock this afternoon on the Maggie Dawn Show. In our Up North News newsletter that you can sign up for at upnorthnewswi.com, we've got a story there about Social Security. And, we just talked about the push for privatization of our public schools. Well, Social Security is no less threatened, especially when you have a Trump cabinet secretary talking about how these Trump baby bonds might be kind of a backdoor way to privatize Social Security. Yeah, I actually said that out loud. The last time a Republican president started to make moves toward privatizing Social Security, that would be George W. Bush, it cost him dearly in his own midterm elections and harmed his second term, because people know what they like. They know that they like to work. And when they're done working, they like to retire. And they have paid into Social Security and to Medicare all their working lives. And what good does it do to work all your life, get to your old age, and not be able to access the benefits that you've been paying for because you've got a group that A, wants to just take care of billionaires, and so they're going to take some of that money to pay for tax cuts, and B, wants to privatize it so that, basically you're left to the whims of the casino we know as Wall Street. And so in our newsletter today is an article from, one Wisconsin Social Security recipient talking about the importance of protecting Social Security in this day and age, and not monkeying with it. So look for that article in our newsletter today. And also, we're going to talk to Melissa Baldauff in about a half hour here in our climate check about the lawsuit recently filed by several young people in Wisconsin, filed by two nonprofit groups on their behalf, all about the climate. And that if you have a state constitution, like Wisconsin does in other states, with language that is indicative of protecting the resources of the state for future generations, then maybe you should not have state laws that are specifically written to favor the fossil fuel industry, as Republicans have wanted to do in Madison and in Washington, D.C. as well. So you can read more about that in our newsletter. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe in the top banner there. On the text line from Jim in Brookfield, thank you, Pat, for getting up early to record the interview with Randi Weingarten of AFT. A key measure of a society is the quality of the public school system. She was able to clearly explain the ongoing assault on public schools by the Trump regime and the Scott Walker-supported private school group. Thank you, Jim in Brookfield, for that text. I appreciate that very much. There's a countdown app on my phone now, counting down to my next birthday next year. So where are we at? 311 days, something like that. Turning 62. I bring that up because of talking about privatizing Social Security and the whole change in thinking about retirement. That we used to have pensions. We used to have companies that wanted to take care of their workers. You work for us, we take care of you when it's time for you to retire. And we had many more pensions in this country. But somewhere along the line, in this era of Reaganism, came the thought, well, you know what? You take care of yourself. We'll give you these things called 401ks, and you can put money in there pre-tax, and then you pick the stocks. You pick, do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to be passive? Do you want stocks? Do you want bonds, domestic stocks, international stocks? You make all those decisions, and if you choose right, you're going to make even more money. But if you choose wrong, well, tough hop. A lot of folks preferred the security of a pension that was professionally managed. So imagine my surprise when doing some retirement planning a week before last and seeing that of all the different jobs I've worked at, I've got a couple of different 401ks here, a 401k there, a rollover IRA over here, and seeing that one of the places where I worked many moons ago it was actually a pension plan, and it was a very small amount. When I left that particular place of employment, I did not think anything of it. What a lesson in compound interest and time. You just leave that alone in that pension. It grows to the point where I now in 311 days or whatever, it starts to pay that pension at 62, not 65. Now it's not going to be that much. It's it's egg money. It's maybe to put some gas in the car, but it's something. It's something reliable, and it's a reminder of what we had and what we can get back to in this country. Instead of privatizing everything, is actually taking care of the public, of our workers instead. Earl Ingram, coming up after the news. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation, a Civic Media station.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. The Federal Reserve issuing a statement asserting its independence, but not saying that Governor Lisa Cook is still working there. President Trump saying he fired her. She's suing to keep her job.
It will now be up to a judge to determine whether Trump's allegations merit Cook's firing, likely setting up another test for the Supreme Court. Cook was appointed by former President Biden, and her term doesn't end until 2038. The Federal Reserve now reasserting its independence, stressing long tenures and removal protections for its members are a vital safeguard to protect the long-term interests of the American people.
ABC's Mary Bruce at the White House. 50% tariffs now in place on a range of imports from India.
Good morning, Earl. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Pat? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, I hear you great. All right, I see we've got 2 new episodes here, Deacon Brown and Robert Miranda. You want to hit both of those and or anything else this morning?
Yeah. Well, the anything else is the subject you just got through talking about. I'm that guy who has a pension, a full pension. I worked 34 years in the auto industry. Mm-hmm. And towards the end of my time, the 401k came into vogue. And so my pension is full. And so I receive that pension check every month. It is, for many of us, it is life-changing as it has been historically for many people. And I remember the 401k when it came in, and I started investing all this money in the 401k, not understanding how any of those things worked.
Right.
And we lost just so much money. The government knew exactly what they were doing when this came into play, because as you stated so correctly, that gamble that we took, those who came after me who didn't get their pensions early on in this really suffered. I talked to many of them.
Yeah.
And it's been really heartbreaking.
Let's do that. All right. We'll start off with there. See you after the weather.
Stations, and the pair are available 24/7. They're now installed near the Historical Society on Library Mall and near the basketball courts at James Madison Park. They were unveiled yesterday and put there by a student-led group that works to prevent sudden cardiac arrest. The group formed a decade ago after the sudden death of a UW Oshkosh student who died after crossing the finish line of a half marathon at Summerfest. And in Milwaukee, a federal judge has denied a motion to dismiss charges against Judge Hannah Dugan. The ruling could be appealed, and that would put off a trial until next year. Another hearing in the case is scheduled for next week. For Savannah Tomei-Olson, I'm Shali Pittman, 92.7 WMDX News.
Another thriller at AmFam Field. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers host the Diamondbacks again tonight. Last night, bottom of the ninth, the game tied 8-8. Bases loaded, 1 out. Isaac Collins, who was 0 for 3 at the plate on FanDuel, Wisconsin.
Lockridge's lead from third to 0-1. Fly ball to right. That's going to do it. Carroll is back. He will make the catch. Lockridge tags. Here's the throw. The Brewers Brewers walk it off against Arizona. Second walk-off of the year for Isaac Collins. The sacrifice fly gets it done. The Brewers led this thing 6-0. Arizona came all the way back, but at the end of the night, it was the Brewers that come out on top.
The Brewers get the win, 9-8, their 10th walk-off hit this season. NFL, the Packers back on the practice field today with their new 53-man roster. Second-year running back Marshawn Lloyd out with a hamstring, placed on the injured reserve list, but designated to return when he's recovered. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
It is going to be mostly sunny today with a high right around 75 this afternoon. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible tonight with a low dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, a shower early, then mostly sunny with a high in the low to mid 70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 50.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
In a time when there's a lot of pain and suffering in Milwaukee after these floods, when the news isn't great every day, we need a little bit of good news, something to distract us from all the craziness of politics. So the Brewers keep on moving here if they can hold 8.5 games up on the Chicago Cubs. We should all be able to rally around that and just enjoy the ride, folks.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays 2 to 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning. It is 8:06. Nice to have you back. It's a Wednesday morning, August 27th, that much closer to Labor Day weekend. And we're going to talk a bit about labor with our friend Earl Ingram in just a bit, and the reward that should come after a lifetime of labor. It used to be a pension. Now it's a casino ticket in many ways. So that conversation's coming up, along with Sean O'Malley talking about your money and the markets, and Joe Zepecki as well, talking about the political headlines of the week. But first, let's go to meteorologist Brittany Merlot, who's, again, telling us how the hoodie weather is nice. There might be the need for what, a windbreaker or rain slicker or something, something other than a hoodie. And we're not quite ready to go just back to tank tops and shorts just yet.
No,
not that anybody wants to see me in a tank top and shorts, but I mean, other people could
you
be.
want to get on the pontoon this weekend. I understand. You want to play in the lake.
Exactly.
I get
Right.
it. So do
I don't want to wind chill if I don't have to. But again, better than a washout of a holiday weekend. We're not looking at that, are we?
No, we're not. So it's pretty cool, actually. Well, both temperature wise and the fact that this high pressure system is going to sit over us, block all the other systems, and keep us dry for Labor Day weekend. So it's going to hold off the rain into Iowa and Minnesota, and it's going to keep us nice out here the entire weekend. In fact, we don't even look at rain chances after tonight, pushing back in until middle of next week, really. So fantastic, gorgeous weekend. I know it's a little bit crisper than a lot of us want, but still off to the west, we could still see some mid to upper 70s Friday and Saturday. We are still looking at mid to upper 70s on Monday, and especially as we go into early next week. But it is going to be cooler tomorrow and also Friday and a little bit into Saturday too. So what we're looking at is a cold front moving through tonight. That means today, mixed skies, comfortable temperatures, pretty much mid 70s all across the state. A little bit of showers and clouds starting to roll through north off of Lake Superior and along into the Northwoods, kind of towards Green Bay as well. You could see some chances for showers this evening. Then by tonight, we're all going to see some light rain, rumbles of thunder, pretty much late tonight, overnight. Waking up tomorrow, a little bit of rain could linger far southeast, maybe some rumbles of thunder into Madison and Milwaukee area, but otherwise it is gone by lunch tomorrow. We'll be sitting in the mid to low 60s on the eastern side of the state, then mid 70s to the western side of the state. We'll sit cool for Friday and slowly start to warm things up into the weekend and staying dry. I think it's great.
It does sound very pleasant. Absolutely. Could it be warmer? Sure.
Sure.
But I'm going to take pleasant every time. I'll take pleasant and a little cooler. That works out just great. So plan accordingly for the weekend, folks. Brittany, thank you very much. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning as well.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
All right. A reminder, you can sign up for our daily newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. There's one article in there about a boost in some funding for the old Pabst Brewery in Milwaukee as they continue to renovate what once was one of America's big-time breweries into all kinds of other space, offices, restaurants, shops, things like that. I worked at the brewery for a very short time while Sherry was attending med school. So it's got kind of a special place in my heart as well. And a lot of folks there who worked there over the years, who I'm sure relied on a pension to get them through into retirement. And we're going to talk a bit about that with Earl Ingram as well, who himself, he's got decades of experience in the auto industry, where, again, there was, there were pensions before there were, these 401ks. Earl, good morning. It is such a change for the American worker. They used to get a promise, and now they get, essentially a scratch-off ticket.
Oh, good morning to you, Pat. I will say that, I walked into an automobile plant in Milwaukee at the ripe old age of 18, and I left it at the age of 54. And I didn't think much about the pension as a, snotty-nosed 18-year-old kid. But the first pension check I received is when I realized the value of what the pension was, and that amount of money that was siphoned off from our weekly checks, and then what the company matched was a lifeline. That, along with Social Security, guaranteed that if you didn't do the right things with your money through that 30-year period, that you wouldn't ever go hungry, that you could always keep a roof over your head, and that if the evil consequences of time, captured your life, your loved one would then receive the pension. It was a lifeline. And when the 401k came into vogue, I was right there. It happened right at the time, towards the end of my time at this company. And, we got excited. We started putting all this money in the 401k, the maximum, and not knowing anything about the stock market. And many lost just about everything they had. And those who came after us who didn't get the pensions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a term in Wall Street that says never try to catch a falling knife. And that's exactly what it feels like with these 401ks and other related things. And look, if somebody wants to take the opportunity to invest, I mean, nobody's going to stop them from doing it. The point that I think we're making here is we went from an era of what was once called defined benefits. You work for us, this is the benefit you're going to get. Now it's called defined contribution, meaning you're going to take 4% of your paycheck, pre-tax, and put it into this 401k. But again, you're catching a falling knife. You're trying to figure out what to invest in, where, and do you get out at the right time? If you get out too soon, you missed out on some opportunity. And Earl, you and I both have seen our share of people who, at first they're kind of happy about retiring, they're kind of excited, and then but all they do now is they watch the stock market, and their emotions ride it with every up and down. That's a hell of a way to spend your retirement after decades of working.
Well, you know what I said, Pat, at the time, and I'll say again, when they excluded police and fire They let them keep their pensions. They didn't put them in a situation that they were forced to do the 401k. So they knew something because they would have included everyone, including police and fire, but they chose not to include police and fire. And so they didn't have to play Russian roulette. They still get their pensions. But the rest of the American people have to go through what I think is horrible, because I'll tell you, man, I'm thankful for my check once a month.
Yeah. And look, nobody's saying that we're going to revert back to primarily pension plans anytime soon. But the reason I bring it up is because there is still a pension plan out there of sorts for America's retiring workers called Social Security. And people said, well, they're never going to go after Roe v. Wade. And then they did. Well, they're never going to go after Medicaid. And now they just did. They're never going to go after Medicare. Well, now they are trying it. And Social Security, that's the next domino to fall in the increasing insecurity that all Americans feel. And it's not right. And if people at least know that these threats are coming to Medicare and Social Security, they'll stop buying the BS from candidates that just want to talk about, transgender sports or whatever side issue is meant to distract them one way while they're getting their pocket picked.
Well, Pat, you mentioned Social Security. I also receive Social Security. I'm 10 years older than you, and I'm right there at the end of the rainbow of all those promised dreams that were promised to us. But I asked the question, they're talking about those who come after and retirement being moved to 67 years old. They're betting that people are going to die before they can recoup those dollars. And this last thing, Pat. So Social Security, they're saying they're not going to have those younger people. You're not going to get what we got, my generation got. I asked the question, why are they continuing then to pay into Social Security if they aren't going to be guaranteed the outcome at the end like we are? Why shouldn't somebody be talking about, hey, why are you still taking money from these young people, knowing that they're not going to get it in the end?
Yeah, and it only grows the cynicism that people feel about their government, which then leads people to make crazy choices like the ones they made last November. The last couple minutes here, I know there's 2 new episodes of the What's Going On podcast. What's Going On with Earl Ingram? Find it at civicmedia.us. Click on shows. And you've got episodes there, church leadership in the community with Deacon Brown, and also talking with Robert Miranda about Fresh Water for Life. You want to quickly highlight one or both of those?
Well, the focus with Robert Miranda was not about Fresh Water for Life. What it was about what is happening in this nation right now. Eau Claire Technical College has done away with diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as many other universities. And the fact that is happening and that they're being forced to do this is actually a calumny. And what is taking place in this country is totally unacceptable as the clock is being turned backwards. And so people who go to Eau Claire Technical College and other universities, not just blacks, but people from different nations who go to these universities, and those diversity, equity, and inclusion and those kinds of things offered a respite for people who are in a different nation where they can feel comfortable. All of these things have been taken away. And I think many people in this country don't know the impact of it. It is absolutely unconscionable what has transpired and what is transpiring under the Trump leadership, and the damage that is being done that, Pat, I think may not be corrected until long after my generation is gone.
Yeah, and that's again, it comes back to that notion of cynicism and what a self-fulfilling prophecy it's been. And look, I know it's always been in vogue to pick on politicians and to say that, to be sarcastic or cynical about getting things done. But I feel like we've taken it to such an extreme now that people just assume that, leaders are never going to look out for them. And then it makes it tough for them to come vote when you actually have good candidates, when you actually have people who are engaged in service. It makes our job tougher. You and I, as people that want to encourage others to participate, vote, increase your civic engagement. But again, whether I'm getting a pension check or not, it's something I feel like I've always got to keep doing, and I hope you keep doing it as well.
No question. We have a responsibility, and we're thankful that we have an opportunity to even have a discussion.
That's right. Earl Ingram, catch the What's Going On podcast through civicmedia.us. Earl, thank you so much. As always, have a great day.
You as well.
All right. And let me make a quick correction. I mentioned that Joe Sepecki's tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. Lost track of the days. Melissa Baldauff is coming up next with our climate check. Some of you will be getting a local update, and then we'll be talking to Sean O'Malley. No, Sean O'Malley is tomorrow as well. Boy, I really got the days messed up.
That.
I know. Author Laura Bird is going to be here, and we're going to be talking about book bans coming up in 15 minutes. I'm Pat Kreitlow. I think I am on the Civic Media.
Oh, boy.
See, we shouldn't have gone with AI, Pat. Bring back the real guy.
Oof.
Or actually just replace me with the robot right now. My goodness. That was just inexcusable. Wow.
Was it a bit by the Civic Media Radio part, or were you actually stumbling there?
I was actually completely thrown off my game at that point.
Oh my God.
Yep.
You'll get it this time, I believe.
Oh boy. Okay. Laura Bird. Oh, can't believe that. Anyway, you got some lawsuit information there in front of you, Melissa?
I am pulling it up right now.
Okay.
I can get it to load here. My computer is being a jerk this morning. There we go.
Okay. All righty. Sounds good. All right. All right. We will get going in a minute 15. For the second day in a row, the Brewers staked out a 6-0 lead and then turned the game into a nail biter. But once again, coming out on the winning side, 9-8 over Arizona. They will play game 3 of the series this evening. Pregame starts at 6:05 on several Civic Media stations. Melissa Baldauff is going to join us in just a sec here with this week's climate check. But I'm going to start this time not just referencing an article by Laura Schulte of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, but I'm just going to read the lead because it's written very well. It just says it all. A group of Wisconsin youth has filed a lawsuit against the state's utility regulators, alleging that the continued use of fossil fuels in energy generation is harming their basic constitutional rights and creating an unstable future. Now, that's a first for Wisconsin, but it's something that we've seen in other states as well. It's a topic we've talked about here on Climate Check previously, but now with it happening in Wisconsin, let's revisit it with Melissa Baldauff and see why this is a potentially workable avenue. Melissa, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. The lawsuit was for these young people was filed by Midwest Environmental Advocates, which is a Wisconsin-based advocacy law firm, and Our Children's Trust, which is a law firm behind similar cases in the state. And so, Melissa, I guess we should have seen that it would be coming here, but we have talked about it in other states. What's your own overview as to, the logic behind this, and, what's the best case scenario here?
So for one, I think this is fantastic. It is amazing to see young people engaged around issues that are important and that are impacting their lives. And so often young people might feel like they don't have a voice, they don't have a say, when they're not 18 yet because they don't get to vote. And this is a way that these young people are able to have their voices be heard and potentially, make, a very, very lasting and significant difference, not only for themselves, but for everybody, to benefit everybody. And what they're doing is going to help not just the people who, the majority, and let me just be clear, the overwhelming majority of people who believe in science and believe that climate change is real, but it will help everybody, even the people who don't believe in climate change and believe that the science is real. So the people who have been impacted by the devastating floods that are happening, those 500-year, 1,000-year floods that are happening every 10 years now, the people who are missing out on recreational opportunities because of the impacts of climate change, the people who are suffering really significant, profound health impacts, that we've seen, just as an example, all summer long from the wildfire smoke coming down from Canada. That's something that was an impact in my house, and definitely engaged. One of my young people, my 16-year-old son, was sick several times. And when we went to the doctor thinking he had strep throat, they said, nope, this seems to be irritation caused by the smoke. And you're not the first case we've seen of this. So, I think this is a really incredible way for young people to be engaged and to make their voices heard. And I'm just so proud that we're seeing young people come together and lift their voices. And I thought it was really, I really appreciated the reasons here that so many of these young people, the plaintiffs, have given. And to talk about this, one of the plaintiffs, Ted Schultz-Becker, really hit the nail on the head about why, the plaintiffs are doing it. Here's the quote from him in a press release. He said, these laws force my government to ignore science and pollution. That's wrong and unconstitutional. Young people have power even when we can't vote. Our voices matter, and we trust our Constitution and courts to protect us.
Yeah, and in Montana, the Supreme Court there last year upheld a district court ruling that the young plaintiffs in that case have a fundamental constitutional right to a clean and healthful environment. And a lot of this is being sparked by Republicans who are, making changes to laws that impede any progress in moving toward cleaner energy sources. And so it makes sense that you would move to courtrooms to try to keep those kind of, pro fossil fuel laws and rules from taking shape. Now, tomorrow in the La Crosse area, we're going to see Vice President J.D. Vance coming in, in theory, to prop up the big bloated boondoggle and all the cuts that come from it. It can be argued as well that he's there to prop up a vulnerable incumbent in Derek Van Orden. What's your own take on the Vice President's trip to La Crosse tomorrow?
I think that I think it's both of those things, exactly like you said. I think that it is definitely to prop up a vulnerable incumbent, and It is, quite frankly, to lie about the big ugly bill. We know that the third congressional district is going to be harmed significantly by this bill. Billions of dollars investments are at risk. Thousands of good paying jobs are going to be on the chopping block. And we also know, just from experience and seeing what's happened, that those areas have been impacted very heavily by flooding and by other natural disasters. So this is an area that's going to be really uniquely harmed by this bill. So of course it makes sense that the vice president is going to come here to lie about it, distract, and try to get people to believe anything other than the truth about what's going to actually happen and what the real consequences are of this bill.
Melissa Baldauff has our climate check for this week. And needless to say, some aggressive fact checking of J.D. Vance is going to be coming tomorrow as part of his lacrosse visit. Melissa, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right. When we come back, and I've double checked this time, the calendar now says Laura Bird, and we'll be talking about book bans and much more ahead here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Okay. Have we got Laura there?
I'm going to grab her right now.
Okay.
What I'm putting on. Does it matter right or left cord?
Yes, but no.
No, for my intents and purposes, no.
No.
Okay.
All right, Pat. Pat's not at his chair. Never mind. If you want to just listen to me to sound check if it's loud enough for you in there. So a little bit louder. It should be. I think it's the third one or the second one. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go.
That's better.
Yeah, I forgot to turn on the mic.
Is this okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I look okay?
Oh yeah, of course.
The light.
I think I heard Laura over there.
There we go.
Hi, Pat.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm
okay.
good.
Am I looking?
I don't know. Parker hasn't turned on the camera. There we go. All right. Let me bring this up here so I can see. And there we go. There you are. And maybe Parker will take that piece of paper off the wall too, that's taped on there when he's all done. All right. There you go.
You want me to take it down?
He can go get it. You just stay right there so I make sure that you're centered in the shot there.
Okay.
Parker, do you need me to give you left and right, or are you good to go there? Does he not have headphones on?
I now have headphones on. What were you saying? Sorry about that.
Could you A, center her in the shot, and B, take the thing off the wall?
Thing off the wall.
The thing off the wall.
Yeah,
thing off the wall I can do. The center of the shot is going to be a trick.
Okay, because she's left of center, so I didn't know if you could boost her, nudge her a little bit to the center there.
More?
No, you don't have to do anything. It's we do the work here, so you don't have to.
Okay,
so you're fine.
Can you see?
And actually, you know what? That's good, especially if you hold them up over, to your left there. Yep, you can go just a little bit further out, and that way they're right.
Out?
No, I mean a little further to your left.
Like
no,
this?
not the book. Yeah, now lift it a little bit. Right there. That's a great spot to hold them if you're able to. So that way we see it clearly. So
okay.
All about placement on a radio show of all things. Okay, good.
Are you happy with that camera angle, Pat?
Yes, I am. So let me, as long as nobody dances, in the window there. And I'm sure
we'll make sure to tell Dom to get over there.
Exactly. You're right. Okay, we'll get going in just under 2 minutes. I'm gonna go get my notes and see you in a bit.
Thanks, Pat.
You know, there are some things in life that you can count on, even if you don't necessarily want to count on them. You know, like the buzzards returning to Hinckley, Ohio every March 15th, or the arrival of another infestation of cicadas. Similarly, when the school year gets going, we can count on the arrival of a new round of attempts to ban books from our school libraries or our public libraries. And so, wanted to talk to somebody who feels rather passionate about book bans, the talking points that surround them, and what it means to those of us that might see that type of action happen in our own local school districts or our own local public libraries. And so author Laura Bird joins us down in Madison Studio A2. This time, not so much to recommend a book reading list, but to talk to us about book bans and specific actions that we can take. Laura Bird, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Thank you for wanting to talk about this. It's not always the easiest subject to tackle, but you want to give us a little book banning 101 here?
I'm ready for it. And
Okay.
like you said, with the start of the new school year, I feel like it's the right time for us to talk about this issue of book censoring so that listeners can understand what's at stake and how we can help keep books in the hands of the students, adults, and communities who need them. Because it is, after all, our First Amendment right to read what we want. So, before we jump in, I just wanted to say that book banning has been a part of American society forever. Yes, even before MAGA. Um, I'm thinking of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I'm sure many people out there have read. That was both banned and even burned in 1851 because it exposed the horrors of slavery. But if it feels to you like book banning has become especially bad lately, you aren't imagining that. The American Library Association reports that there was a record breaking number of attempts to ban books in 2023, which was up 65% from 2022, which itself was a record breaking year. So we'll talk more about the specific numbers in just a minute. Um, I want to kind of cite my sources here for this book banning 101 for your listeners. You know, I'm an author and I'm also a huge public library champion. And there are 4 places I typically go for my information about book banning. And they have great resources. They do a lot for advocacy. So anyone can check out these websites. So I go to PEN America, Authors Against Book Bans, the American Booksellers Association, and the American Library Association. So I just wanted to mention those because these groups and a slew of others are really working hard behind the scenes to help protect free expression and to champion access to books because we all suffer when the freedom to read is challenged and taken away.
Right. So before we jump into it, for those groups that she cited, here are the web addresses for PEN America. It's pen.org. You can find Authors Against Book Bans at authorsagainstbookbans.com. The American Booksellers Association is at bookweb.org. Again, bookweb.org. And the American Library Association is ala.org. Let's start somewhat simple, basic here. What exactly is book banning or book challenging, and who's doing it by and large?
Okay, so you might have heard the terms book banning and book challenging used interchangeably, but they're actually different things. So this is a good place to start. So a book challenge is an attempt to remove, restrict, or relocate materials based upon the objections of a person or a group. A book ban is the actual removal of those materials. So, Pat, lest you think that book challenges aren't so bad, in many instances, school districts are actually forced to pull books off the shelves while they are being challenged, like, until the fate of the book is decided one way or another.
So guilty until proven innocent, basically.
Yeah, in some districts, that's how it is. And so it's still preventing access to those titles. As for who is doing the book banning, this is interesting. So, according to research from the Every Library Institute, most Americans do not want book bans. Specifically, 92% of parents, grandparents, and guardians trust librarians to curate appropriate books and materials for their children. Having said that, the people that are making the biggest stink, it's a very small but very vocal and passionate minority. So, book challenges can come from parents, community members, school administration, groups like Moms for Liberty, and also government officials. And these efforts happen at the local level, at public schools, and at public libraries. They all have their processes in place by which they handle complaints about books. So depending on where you live, it's going to look a little bit different. I just want to say here, I'm going to kind of climb on my soapbox. Libraries, whether school or public, they all have content development policies that they rely on when they're adding titles to their shelves, right? So this is not happening in a vacuum. Plus, librarians are formally trained to know which titles are relevant, engaging, and appropriate for readers. So they are very capable of not only purchasing, but also shelving books in the right places in the library. So I just want people to understand that, because, if you're going to the library to read Green Eggs and Ham with your toddler, you're not going to be, tripping over a book on sexuality written for teenagers. They're in different parts of the library.
It's not this willy-nilly thing of, oh, somebody sent me this book, I'll just put it up on the shelf.
Exactly.
There are standards. How does
Exactly.
Wisconsin fit into this in terms of what do we see here in Wisconsin?
Okay, so PEN America tracked book bans in public school districts over a 2-year period from summer of 2021 to summer of 2023. They recorded nearly 6,000 instances of book banning across 41 states and 247 public school districts. Any guesses, Pat, as to the 2 worst offenders? Which 2 states had the most book bans?
I would go with, like Mississippi and Alabama or something like that.
Okay, kind of close. Florida
Okay.
came in with 2,000, almost 2,000.
Makes
And
sense.
Texas came in with nearly 1,500.
Okay.
So do you have any guesses about Wisconsin?
I would say it's a small fraction of that, but definitely not zero.
Okay, you're right. So Wisconsin in that 2-year period had nearly 72 instances of book banning. Not nearly 72, 72
Mhm.
instances of book banning, which is not terrible when you compare us, to Florida or Texas. But when you compare us to our neighbor to the south, Illinois only had 5. And in 2023, Illinois became the first state to pass an anti-book ban law. So I feel like we've got some room to grow here. We've got
Oh, definitely. I know I've talked to State Representative Jody Emerson and others who basically have legislation that would ban the ban, that would ban, book banning and call for a more transparent process here. So in general, what kinds of books are being challenged and banned? Do you have any specific examples?
Oh, yeah. So in general, books that are under attack usually feature characters of color or characters from LGBTQ plus backgrounds. They center on themes or ideas around race or matters of sexuality. They contain what book banners deem offensive language. And my favorite here, they contain uncomfortable topics. And I'm saying that in quotation marks with my fingers, like sexual well-being, violence, abuse, grief, and death. I would argue that all of us have to deal with things like that sooner or
Yeah.
later in our lives. The majority of books, 58%, in fact, are young adult books, and these are books that are written for 13 to 18-year-olds. As for some specific examples, I came ready to share some.
As always.
Yes. So Gender Queer is the most frequently banned book nationwide. It's by Maya Kobabe, and it's a beautiful memoir about understanding gender identity and sexuality. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a super popular book, beloved by many people. It's a novel about a Black teenager who witnesses a police shooting. The Kite Runner, perhaps you've read it, by Khaled Hosseini, a novel about 2 young men growing up in Afghanistan during the Soviet invasion and rise of the Taliban. And this one's really going to knock your socks off. The Diary of Anne Frank, which
Yeah.
of course is
Yeah.
Anne Frank's account of going into hiding with her Jewish family, during the Nazi occupation in the Netherlands. I've read 3 out of 4 of these books. They are incredible books, right? And I'm going to get on my soapbox again. It infuriates me that they're being banned because I feel like stories have immense power to build compassion and overcome prejudice. And I think that we need more books, not fewer, about people on the margins, because when we're deeming certain voices as dangerous or un-American, that becomes a stigma. And we're essentially communicating that some experiences are allowed to be normalized while others aren't. And of course, that's detrimental to all of us.
We are talking to author Laura Bird. We're talking about book bans and book challenges. And next, we're going to look at arguments that book banners like to use. Let me run through the list real quick, and then we'll see what we can do in the 3+ minutes we got left here.
Oh,
Argument 1 is we're just trying to protect children. Argument 2 is parents should have control over what their kids read. 3 is books are indoctrinating kids with political or woke agendas. 4 is these books contain pornographic or obscene material. 5 is there are other books to read. Why does it matter if we remove a few? There are plenty of others. 6 is the First Amendment doesn't apply to schools. And 7, these books confuse kids about their identity. Let you take as many as we've got time for in whatever order you choose.
Perfect. You just keep me posted on how much time I have.
You got
So,
it.
argument number 1, we're just trying to protect children. So, people believe that removing the books, like I just mentioned, is a form of protection, not censorship. And of course, I disagree. I think that protecting children doesn't mean shielding them from reality. It means giving them the tools to understand that. And that might include having some difficult conversations with your kids about what they're reading, but that's our job as parents. I would say that kids are going to seek out information wherever they can find it. And I think that books and libraries provide care and context and support like that social media and Google do not. So that's the first argument.
All right.
Let's talk about parents should have control over what their kids read. Absolutely. Parental rights matter, but public resources must serve all families. So if you don't want your child to read a book, that's your choice, but please don't take that choice away from others. I would also say that library systems in schools have tools in place that invite parental input. So use those tools. But to remove a book for everybody removes that choice, like from parents like me who do want their kids to have access to titles and stretch their minds and learn from them. Argument number 3, books are indoctrinating kids with political or woke agendas. This might be my favorite one. Books are not political just because they reflect the lives of people outside the majority. Diverse stories are not agendas. They are literature, they build empathy, and they provide windows into the human experience, which of course is diverse and rich. These books contain pornographic or obscene material. That's another one we hear a lot. Pornography is about intent. So by definition, it's material intended to sexually arouse. In general, libraries, school, and public do not contain pornography on the shelves. I would argue that a book that explores identity, love, and trauma or abuse, through a character's emotional journey with a plot line and compelling themes is not pornography. It's literature. And also book banners are really good at reading certain passages or pages from books out of context, selected for shock value. So rarely do they read the entire book and understand the scope and importance of the story.
We have already seen that just in the comment section during this segment of people who are jumping right into the, that this is all pornography, and you have a perfect explanation on the difference that I hope more people take to heart. Those organizations again are PEN America, pen.org, the American Booksellers Association at bookweb.org, Authors Against Bookbans.com, and the American Library Association is ALA.org. Laura Bird, as always, a great discussion. I'm sure we will continue it down the road. You have a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
You too.
All right. We will be back with James Kelly reporting from the Civic Media Newsroom in Chippewa Falls right after this. You're up north. All right, there we go. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, I wish we had more time. There was so much that I wanted to cover, but
I know
this was a good primer for people.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you choose, if you want to take everything that is here and put it in like a column form, we would love to put it up on the show page and put it up on Up North News.
Seriously?
Absolutely, yes. If you want to
kind of write it up
like a column, yes.
Awesome. How many words are we talking?
I would keep it under 1,000.
Under 1,000. I can totally do that. I've got it all right here, so I can absolutely do that.
Kind of what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more that I feel like we could cover, but
oh yeah, without a doubt. And by the way, if we have to break it up into a pair of 600s, we can do that too.
Okay.
So, all right.
You're the best.
I will look forward to it. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.
See you later. Bye. How is James doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. Got your notes here. You doing anything for the weekend?
Oh, no, I just took my little time off last week.
What'd you do?
Oh, not a whole lot of anything. Just went back home, visited. Cousin got engaged. Luckily, she said yes. Otherwise, the party would have been really weird.
Yes, it would have been. Okay, good. All right. And anything else new since this list here?
I mean, Eau Claire passed the paid parking downtown.
EV charging station in Ashland closed after being deemed obsolete by new state law. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a law that went into effect that basically prevents the city of Ashland from using these electric charging stations that work, and they have already, because they don't charge, or they can't charge because it's a level 1 or 2 station. It's just kind of a weird legal loophole that they had asked to get grandfathered into and didn't.
So wait, so they do or they don't charge right now for those stations?
Right now, there's just bags over them. They are
No, I mean,
unusable.
Okay, but what were they doing? I'm confused that the state law says they need to charge people if they want to use it, or
they can't charge people with the kind of chargers that they are.
Okay. Weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's just they installed them before this law was a thing, and now that the law is a thing, they can't really do anything about it.
Tony in Ashland says it's dumb. So
yeah.
So there's that. Okay, sounds good. Just needed a little clarity there. We will get going in 35 seconds.
Cool.
This is the part of the program where I tell you who's coming up tomorrow. Although I feel like I already did a couple of times, thinking they were coming up today, but they're not. Sean O'Malley will be on tomorrow talking about your money and the markets. Joe Zepecki will be on tomorrow talking about some of Wisconsin's political headlines. Chad Holmes tomorrow, Todd Alba, and also Kate Felton, who is from Eau Claire and has written a column for Dan Schaefer's Recombobulation Area about what it means to her that Derek Van Orden has supported these cuts to Medicaid and to SNAP. And of course, Sharita Booker will get us set up on all the big events coming up this Labor Day weekend across Wisconsin. All that tomorrow right here on the program. But before we wrap things up today, we welcome in James Kelly from our Chippewa Falls newsroom to tell us some of the stories that he's following. James, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
And I was going to tell you that today, I've mentioned a couple times, we've got daughters and grandkids coming in. And I believe one of the plans for today or tomorrow is to explore that new container park in Altoona that you told us about. So expect a full report card from us next week.
Yeah, I'm sure you will not be disappointed. It was very nice.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So as we look ahead to what you're working on these days, let's start with Menominee, and where residents there have been organizing against a proposed data center. Again, this is a very new topic in a lot of places where data centers could be the future, could be creating jobs of the future. The question is, can you do it while properly planning for like use of resources, or are these not going to be good for the community? And James, there are very clearly people that feel like a data center proposed from Menominee would not be a good thing.
Yeah, that is always the question with these projects, isn't it? How do you balance the environmental concerns with the job creation potential of a center like this? Now, the Menominee City Council voted to annex and rezone this land from the town of Red Cedar a couple weeks ago, but we're clear that they're not definitely going to be putting this data center there. It was proposed by a company called Balloonist LLC, which wants to use the land for a data center. And over the weekend, this group that's kind of fighting against that data center held their first meeting at a brewery, unexpectedly attended by Mayor Randy Knack, who agreed with them that maybe the city council had made a mistake in pursuing this project. Their environmental concerns are the same as many other data centers, specifically with water usage. This facility would use the 5th most water of any facility in Wisconsin at 75,000 gallons a day on average. So that would be quite a lot, but it would also create a lot of jobs.
Ostensibly, especially in construction, once they're built, they don't need quite so many jobs there, but it is a lot of construction jobs that are getting created. And I'm going to say for the purposes of full disclosure, I guess I consider myself on the fence on data centers in that I understand they are big users of water. I guess I want to learn more about, can you set up a cycle where you're essentially, recycling that water for use? I mean, it comes in cool because you got to, cool off those rooms with all those servers in it. And of course that heats up the water. Is that something, is that a thing? If it's not a thing, then I'd certainly have a different opinion on how much water is needed. That and other things, I'm definitely in the category. I feel like I need to learn a lot more. And so I'm sure we'll reach out to those Menominee residents and get their point of view on this as well.
It's funny you mentioned that. There actually was talk at this meeting about a closed loop system to kind of minimize the amount of water that needs to be used. And some residents expressed concerns over whether or not that would actually be effective.
Yeah. So I'm willing to learn, given what we know about these things so far, that there's still more to be said and that we shouldn't be jumping the gun until we learn more. Up in Washburn County, folks have been asked about a land purchase for a potential new jail. Where are they coming down on this?
Yeah, last week the county board voted against purchasing a piece of land from the town of Bashaw. Right now, the Washburn County Jail doesn't meet all of the housing requirements from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, so they've had to transport some inmates to other facilities in the area. The vote failed 11-10, which is close. And they're looking at another site in Shell Lake now that they would have to pay pretty high over market value for because somebody currently lives there. So, they need their mortgage paid off and they need to have money to move somewhere else. And it's a lot of money. So at this county board meeting, a lot of residents were kind of doing the math and saying, well, isn't it just kind of cheaper to continue to transport some of these inmates to other areas, or maybe work on like a multiple county solution where we kind of share a facility? So still a lot of questions to be answered there in the near future.
Okay. So I'm sure that there were folks who, again, they put a lot of work into this and believed that was the way to go. But again, much like the last subject, if people want to learn a few more options first that might reduce their costs, I guess that's what it's there for. Let's talk about in Eau Claire what the health department is doing about the ongoing problem of overdoses.
Yeah, we're holding an opioid overdose workshop this week. It's going to be tomorrow from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the L.E. Phillips Memorial Library. There's going to be kind of an overall presentation on the effects of opioids, how to respond to an overdose, how to administer Narcan and use fentanyl test strips. And everyone who attends will be able to take home Narcan or fentanyl test strips or items like that for free. So, just kind of one of those things, like I think of it as like CPR certification. It's good to have. It's good to know how to do this, and you hope you never have to.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, let's go up to Ashland, where this sounds weird. Some EV charging stations have been deemed obsolete by a new state law and can't be used right now. Why?
Yeah, so these are 2 EV charging stations across the street from City Hall. They were initially installed in 2023, and the idea was that, people come, they charge their electric vehicle, and they can kind of explore downtown Ashland while they're waiting. Wisconsin Act 121 went into effect last year, March 20 of 2024, and that means that if a municipality cannot own and operate level 1 and level 2 charging stations after that date, unless they charge a reasonable fee. If they were installed before then, like the Ashland one, it can't charge a fee at all. So currently, those electric vehicle charging stations aren't allowed to actually charge for the electricity that they're using, so they're essentially out of order.
That sounds like something that needs to be fixed, and I'm sure James will be following it continuously, as he does for all these stories all across Northwest Wisconsin. James, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Pat.
All right. And thanks to all of you for joining us as well. Thanks to our guests, Randi Weingarten, Laura Bird, Melissa Kay, Earl Ingram, Melissa Baldauff, Brittany Merlot, and Parker Olson, and you for being here as well. Up North News is the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you bright and early 6 a.m. tomorrow here up north.